Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Eric Troche, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, 10.
Hold on.
How's everything with the fire? All sorted out?
Hopefully, we had strong winds today, pushing it back on its already burned surfaces, so that's helped. We'll see once the sun comes up.
Wow, you sound clear as anything.
Well, I'm on my headset on my phone. Had to pack everything in the truck, computer, hard drives, ready to scoot.
Hey, is scutch a word? You know, like the guy's a real scutch.
Well, some people drink scotch. Some people run like scotch. So it must be a word.
So that's all I want to say. You know I'm a scutch man. So I went there and I just caught the last 5 minutes and just decided to break some balls. I had them all in a frenzy. That's okay.
You're a scotch man. That's is that related to 10th Man in any way?
The 11th scutch.
From the scotch.
That Eli? What's up, Eli?
Good evening, guys. Good evening. I mean, well, good morning. My bad.
Yeah, it's evening to some.
Yeah, they're just not antipodal to us.
So my son, I was listening to the re-up of the show. He just doesn't want when oh, that was that presentation Brian did yesterday. He was listening to it, and before he got out of the car to go to the gym, he was like, "There's 2 points in the sky. You still can't answer that question," and he shut the door. I think it's really weighing on him, you know.
You ought to get that song, that what do you call it? Square dancing song, Turn Around.
The sky is spherical. If the sky is spherical, there's no way the earth could be flat. There's 2 points in the sky. Oh God. It's really, really getting to us. Really feel bad for him.
The sky is spherical.
If you were in the equator line, if you didn't have the sun as a reference, let's say at nighttime, and you disregard all the other lights in the sky, you're only interested in Polaris and the Southern Cross. What you're going to have is 2 circles of equal altitude that would match pretty much, if not bigger, than the geometry allowed for the Earth. Because these 2 points apparently are visible from the equator line. And that is pretty much what Brian was bringing up yesterday. So you have these 2 circles of equal altitude side by side, greater than the model itself.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
watch
he
that.
heard that. Listen, he heard all of that.
Good. Good video, Bri.
Well, you know, when you go to McDonald's or Burger King or one of these fast food joints, at least when I was growing up, they only had one size. Now you can supersize everything.
Yeah, but man, that
How long is the
presentation was
video?
devastating. I'm sorry, Eli.
No. I just want to know how long is the video. Maybe I can squeeze it in before and come back.
1
It
hour.
wasn't that long,
1 hour.
to be honest. An hour?
Yeah. I'll see it after
Morning,
the
guys.
show. So
Hey, Chocolate. Hey, Eli.
What's up,
Yo,
Chalk?
yo. What up, Neil?
Hey, Chocolate, don't push that turbo boost too early, okay?
Turbo? What turbo? What are you talking about? What's he talking about, Chocolate? Do you know? Do you know what he's talking about?
Center of the
See
earth
it-
button.
In the war room, I put you know how I always say you got to hit the center of the earth mode button. Every time I say that, just because I'm a bit of a geek from the '80s, so I always think of Knight Rider hitting the button, the turbo boost button, where kid starts jumping over shit. I know it's silly, but that's how I think about it. It's just funny to me.
Yeah, what you think is silly, they believe is real.
Nah, they don't think they're going to the center of the earth,
Yeah, they have a
but
whole
you can
book
think
on
of it like they are.
Yeah, Jules,
There's a whole movie
Ju-
called Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Jules
It's real.
Verne
It was
wrote
on the
about.
telly.
But they got to go there, Chocolate. They take a sextant elevation angle measurement each time. They have to get one.
That's right.
Howdy from the Gulf of Mexico. How y'all doing?
Very well, Cuddles. How are you?
I didn't know they played golf in Mexico.
Go for
up?
Mexico. I
Fantastic.
got baptized there.
Bro, vacation has been fantastic. I'm like a half a mile from the beach. Oof,
I could use one of
it's
those.
beautiful out here.
That's
South-
great.
Are
That's
you by
great.
South Padre Island?
Huh? No, Galveston Island. But here's the funny thing, check it. One of the first pictures that I got where the sky and the water were clear, the clouds are sinking, and the surface of the water is looming.
I'm back with that.
The clouds were sinking, right? They looked like they were on the surface of the water, and the water looked like it was moving up. So it was looming upwards, and the clouds were sinking down.
So you got perspective and the angles from the deck there.
Now here's the funny thing. There's a rig that's like 11 miles off the beach. And while all of this sinking and looming is going on, there's the rig. Off in the distance past the point where it looks like those two meet.
Say that picture is rigged.
Yeah. You got any pictures? I was going to say, do you got pics?
We'll take that as a no.
Here, that picture's rigged, man. Fucking temp.
All I have is
Yeah,
a
I got
phone
that.
camera, so everything's I can't even get a clear picture of any of the cruise ships, any of the shipping ships.
Well,
I
you
can't
let
even
us
zoom
down now,
in
mate.
on the rig.
What does shipping ship? Ships?
Shit.
I haven't seen one of those shipping ships,
Yeah,
but they do come in every once in a while.
on the back of a ship.
Mm-hmm. Shipping ships are awesome. Shipping ships.
Why don't they just ship themselves?
Because if they did, it'd be a hull of a journey.
Well, dude, the oil platforms that they put out, right? They use the shipping ships to move those.
Right.
There's all kinds of different stuff they use those things for. It's freaking awesome.
Are the shipping ships built in the shipyards by the shipbuilders?
Of course.
Just
I'm loving
wanted
this.
clarity on it.
I'd hate to see that they were made by the racket makers.
How many shipping ships does it take to ship a fleet?
Normally,
Dude,
depending on the
shippity day.
size of your boat, depending on the size of your boat, buddy, your fleet could potentially fit 5 or 6 ships on a shipping ship. They're huge, bro.
That's the ship.
When the ship goes down, you gotta get ready.
Dude, the shipping ship can pick up 2 cruise ships side by side on its deck.
Wow.
One day.
We going all in, huh?
So all on one deck, huh? You got strong shoulders, one deck.
Shippity doodah, shippity day.
Afternoon,
I'm
guys.
gonna have to come
Hello.
down here. I'm gonna have to come back
Sorry,
down
Adam.
with a camera, bro.
Come on, Adam, join in.
Almost
Sorry
couldn't,
about the Queen, guys.
almost couldn't get the show working today, Adam. 3 reloads, loading all the software up. None of it would talk to each other. So I still couldn't get it working with the camera. But there we go. Can't
Nathan,
wait for
don't
this.
ruin the moment.
Sorry about the Queen.
Hang on,
Why
Nathan,
would you
don't ruin
be-
the moment.
Why
Yeah,
would you be
their
sorry?
monarch died. Come on, you got some capacity.
You know, my only king is the one and only. All this, like,
Of course.
really, yo, like,
Why?
never mind. I don't even want to be the person to jumpstart this conversation.
Why are you guys? Why are you guys not letting Adam come on the shipbuilder?
Go ahead, Adam.
Do we
Come on,
care,
Adam.
Adam, about the Queen dying?
Well, personally, it's sad that anybody dies, but other than that,
Exactly. God takes no pleasure in the death of a sinner.
It is definitely relieving when certain people die, when their reign is the direct result of other suffering. It is a natural feeling to feel relieved when you're under the thumb of someone's rule.
Out with the old and in with the new. The system itself put her in that position, and whoever replaces her, presumably Charles,
Yep.
will be in the exact same position, doing
Yeah,
the
it'll be
exact
the
same
same.
thing, holding the exact same globe with the exact same cross on top of it.
That right there is the thing. It's like, no, like let's not suspend the fact that these guys are perpetuating this heliocentric lie to be like, oh, the Queen. Like, no. Let's not
Correct.
do that.
She swore to indoctrinate her people with that heliocentric lie when she held that globe.
Yep.
And she did, till her death.
She did seem like a sweet old lady, though. I ain't gonna lie.
You guys
She's an old
get
lady.
lynched for saying things like that over there, like.
She
'Cause,
gave a good old speech.
me over here right now, I disagree with my current quote unquote leader, and I get labeled a terrorist and shit like that. So
Oh no, it's not like that
and
here.
fascist.
No, there's a whole faction of people that don't think that we should have a royal family at all, and they're allowed to be vocal about that. So no, it's not like, hey, if you're not a patriot
Well-
here, then that's
Well, the independence of the people. That's a dead giveaway why they shouldn't have a quote unquote ruler, right? I thought they were set free in the 1200s.
yeah, right.
You're talking
What? You
about the
got
Magna
2
Carta.
different kings in 2
In
different
word
time periods,
only.
100 years apart, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
King devolved his authority back onto the people and tore up all the social compact agreements because he wasn't gonna do it. He didn't want to.
At least the Queen didn't come out and tell y'all if you don't vote for her, then you ain't British.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't vote
Yeah,
for the
a lot
Queen.
of people. A lot of people are confused right now, like because I can hear people like "F Joe Biden," but then there are others that are like, "This is the best president that I've had in my life." It's like, fam,
That's
Wow.
funny.
Why is what makes you believe that one
Sorry.
is any different to any of the others?
nope. What's different?
Nothing.
What's different is
You
more.
you know what'd be different when one of the paradigms come down, and it's the result of a president merely uttering his opinion. Like, because that would be all it would need, right? Like, oh, heliocentrism is a lie. Oh, we didn't go to the moon. Oh, something like that. Then I'd believe it. Yeah,
Delusions
I
of
wouldn't.
grandeur,
But it'd be a
Eli.
stat.
Eli, what's different
Technically,
is
right now,
Say again, Cuddles?
I was going to say, technically, right now, the people have Joe Biden there, right? And it's just proof that they always hire a monkey.
Yeah. All of these people have got
Joe.
strings attached to them.
I didn't know Joe Biden was an organ player.
The point is, the position comes with many strings attached. Is the point that Cuddles is making?
Listen, the difference.
Good one.
It doesn't.
The
Go ahead.
Go on.
Well, that's the problem. No matter who someone else decides to be there, I mean, it's always going to be the same thing. The leaders are a reflection of the people.
Joe Biden is not a reflection of me. Thanks.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link together with a thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Eli, Chocolate Saying, The Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
God save the king.
Hello.
Hey,
I
good morning.
personally think that. I personally think that. Oh, my bad. Everybody say hello, hello, hello.
Good morning.
So you said it for me, Eli.
Afternoon.
Go on, Eli, we're all on 10
I personally think the flavor of today's show after the housekeeping questions are maybe integrated somehow. We should all bring up scathing remembrances of the questions that Globe Earthers just refused to answer.
You're saying we are going to have a remembrance show for questions we used to be asked but are no longer. Have you got an example?
And it's exactly what the housekeeping questions are, which is why I tried to get it in early. Like,
I
so
gotcha,
for
gotcha.
instance, if you were to ask, say again.
No, I got you. I follow now. So if I say any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth, we get a no, but then we also
Right.
hopefully get someone saying, yeah, we don't get asked why buildings are blocked by the physical geometric horizon anymore, for an example, right?
Exactly. Because I asked Kosho yesterday and I realized I never get an answer with, like, there are certain questions that they kind of go mum's the word and they'll wait for someone to interject and then they'll latch onto that red herring and they'll ride it into the sunset, yada,
Yep.
yada. So one example is, okay, since the 8 inches per mile squared equation is incorrect, which one is correct?
Hold on,
Whose
hold
bit
on,
is
hold on. Whoa,
incorrect?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Who says 8 inches per mile squared is incorrect when that is very much the
Exactly.
rhetoric?
Oh, a
They,
bunch of them have said that through the
I was
years, man.
specifically yesterday, and I asked a lot of people, but specifically yesterday it was kosher because whenever we talk about that, someone always says, "Yeah, but that's not accurate, right?" Why? Because these people started saying that in the face of our us handing them their defeat with no geometric curvature anywhere. So I decided, oh, well, it's been about a year. Let me ask you now, since we're talking about it. Hey, what do you think? Because everybody else was talking about it. I asked Kosho specifically point blank. I was like, well, since all of your counterparts are saying that this is an incorrect approximation, then what would be the best approximation so that we can utilize an observation with that approximation and see if we get good results or not? You know what he did? He was like, oh, my bad, I didn't hear you. I asked him again. He said, I have to go get dinner.
Yeah, that's because it is the correct approximation. It is the correct. It's not an approximation. It's the exact what it has to be based on their radius.
That's right.
They were corrected on this several years ago by George Netchuk and someone else after him. And now they also have another. They have another glober called Scientism who corrected them on it. Right? It's like, no, if you don't understand, if you use the chord line through their circle, right? That's the drop. That is the drop rate. You can't have any other drop rate with a radius of 3959 miles. That is the drop rate.
Okay,
So,
so what
of course it's incorrect
what we're
because it's
discussing
not real.
is the contradictory assertions that come from globe Earth heretics. So upon the defeat of their argument in regards to Earth curve, they'll start telling us nobody's expecting to see Earth curve. Well, the 8 inches per mile formula's not right. These are globe heretics. Yeah, 8 inches per mile is what you claim. We've debunked it, therefore, what, it's not what you claim anymore? Yeah, that's globe heresy.
Yeah, the radius of a sphere, 3959 miles, that's a straw man. That's my favorite one. That's better than the 8 inches per mile squared not being accurate. I love that's a straw man. Really? That's a straw man.
That's not the only straw man. Like,
You wanna hear the
because
latest?
you have a logical syllogism in the arguing of the black swan observation, and they say that's a straw man too, which is the straw man being that we didn't claim that the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, resulting in geometric horizon that's 1.2 times the square root of the observer's head and feet. We never said that.
Yeah, you did. Every time you claimed a boat was disappearing over the curve, you said that. Maybe not in so many words, but that literally was what you were saying.
No, but Eli's not playing devil's advocate when he says that. He's saying he, as a flat earther, is not claiming boats go over the horizon or that there's a curved Earth at 8 inches per mile squared. He's not saying that. But when we defeat it, they then, like Simon done with axial rotation, reposition what is in fact the globe Earth claim onto the flat earther so they can say the flat earther is wrong. So you saying that the Earth has an 8 inches per mile squared drop rate, you, flat earther, are wrong. It's like, no, that's the globe claim. But you need to attack me, the flat earther, and say that me claiming something that the globe absolutely without question claims is wrong. Because then they can attack me on my understanding of the globe, which is win-win for them.
Your reference frames are ruined.
But no, what Eli was just saying there a minute ago. What was it, Eli? You said again that every time they referred to the Earth curve calculator, what did they think they were referring to? What was the radius of the globe they were referring to within Metabunk?
Well, I think that's specifically where he tapped out. Because actually, I said I can use GitHub. I can use what? Well, no, I didn't. I said I can use whatever the first one Google gives me, and the reason I said that is because when we first retorted with, well, just look at any calculator on Google, he said no, because you can use Metabunk. And I was like, well, you use Metabunk and I'll use GitHub, and we'll see what the differences are and if it makes any difference to the argument levied against you. And that's when he said, I'm going to get dinner.
This is the guy who is gay. Sorry, go on, Chuck.
No, go ahead, brother.
This is the black, gay, Jewish Texas guy you're talking about, whose father is Blue Mara Science.
Yes.
Kosher. Yeah. And he says can definitely be taken as fact. Yeah.
Speaking of radius value, is there any evidence of it? Earth radius, the R value?
Just real quick, I was going to say, don't they see that that's the problem? That they're not even in agreement with what this measurement should be if it's an objective measurement of drop rate. The fact that one person can go to one site and somebody can go to another one and get two different measurements for the same thing, and they don't see that as a problem. That's crazy.
Well, it's actually two different things.
White swans still exist.
Oh, see, the problem is it's actually there's two different elements to this. It's the 8 inches per mile squared equation, and then it's the distance to horizon formula. Two different things. Now, this is where the argument becomes circular, because when we say, well, how do you prove the radius then, after going through all of the 1.2, blah, 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 then they'll say, well, we can use observations of drop to determine that. Oh, okay, then so back to the original question, which 8 inches per mile squared equation would you, or which one of these approximations of a parabola would you like to use?
This is
it's not a parabola. Go on, Adam. It's not a parabola. It is, and it's not.
They're all parabolic equations. Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Go ahead, Adam.
Correct
it's a squared
me,
function.
please.
It's a squared function. It's not exponential. It's not parabolic. It's a squared function. Go ahead, Adam.
This is where they sacrifice to me, where they admit the truth. So if they are losing, they'll attack the 8 inches. Now, 8 inches is not correct at any point whatsoever in relation to a sphere of 3959. Just isn't, because it is just a logarithmic function which matches over very closely, but at no point correct. It matches the curvature of the supposed ball Earth. And it was something that bugged me. That's why I actually derived a formula to calculate it exactly. Because if you are doing stuff, you do need to be accurate. And I say 8 inches out all the time. But if you look at things like Metabunk, they use a similar derivation to me, which is just infinitely more accurate. But my only point was that's something they'll defend up until the point you're attacking something else, and that would be a distraction tactic I've witnessed, Eli, down the line, where they will attack 8 inches just as a distraction to get the point, and to move away from what they were losing. Sacrifice.
Right. If you're attacking the assertion that we've got a physical geometric sphere for a horizon, and then you insert the maths of the globe calculator at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, it's far easy for them to claim that your assertion of a 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet observation of a geometric horizon is wrong. Now, obviously, that's why we call them globe heretics, because they're more than willing to attack the globe claim in the first instance once it's been put forth by the flat earther. No, you don't understand the claim, will normally be the way it goes, so that you can argue about the globe claim, which is, as I said earlier, win-win for them either way.
Yeah, 1.22 is a calculation, but it is also an approximation. It makes some concessions, so it in itself isn't fundamentally accurate. A bit unlike, like I say, the metabunk calculations or mine. Mine, you can do it as just in kilometers. If you want to know curvature, it's 6371 minus the cosine of the distance times 0.009 times 6371, and that will give you the exact drop in kilometers.
6671, yes, that's just exactly how I worked it out too.
Yeah, I thought you did. A week before me.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brian told me, but yes.
But yeah, so that would be how I describe the differences. But say fundamentally, that when you relate to that, and they go, "Oh, 8 inches per mile squared inaccurate," they are technically correct, but it's being pedantic because it's perfectly good for most optical observations as an approximation. But it is burning their own bridges, isn't it? Just to me to distract, because they're losing it in some other way. So it's just I'll burn that one.
Yeah, but Adam, if you like, I never even get to the point talking about 8 inches because I only talk about the radius. But if you use a chord line through the circle, does that not match the 8 inches drop? You're using a chord line between 2 points, between the observer and the point.
No.
Even the first one is 7.9 inches, isn't it, or 7.8
Yeah.
inches? So you see, it's just an approximation. But realistically, look, who cares? Because most of the time it's optical, so it's good enough as a rule of thumb that you can do the maths in your head. And you can't do my maths in your head unless you've got a cosine table in your head. Do you know what I mean? To be accurate. So it's just useful as a rule of thumb for what the claim of the ball is.
Yeah, but like I never even get to it because as soon as one of them say, "Oh, that's not accurate," I go, "Yeah, we don't see it anywhere. It's not reality because it's not." And on top of that, they're claiming they were the idiots who were claiming 8 inches, who were claiming they had a drop, didn't realize that the people above them were claiming that everything we see is refracted up anyway. You know, on a constant basis. So it's a joke. Sorry, you never have the drop rate even with their claims. It can't happen. They have a claim. They have a claim of a drop rate, but then they have another claim that shows you how you can never have this drop rate. You know, it's contradictory.
Got a quick question from the super chat. Michael Kahn says, "Any evidence of the 7 missing Russias?"
That was epic.
Yeah, well, you know, just Eli wants to say something, so I just say this very quick. The only response I got back about my presentation from our opposition was 2 things. One, they were trying to correct me on they were trying to correct me on the maths. Like 2 of them, at least more than 2 of them, I think 4 of them, including Wolfie, missed that because they didn't watch the presentation. They missed that the maths fault I put in that was in there intentionally because they didn't watch it. The one that Mitchell pointed out. So they got caught on that one. But other than that, they were just the only responses I got was that nautical miles squared and squared nautical miles are different. That's all I got, right? Must be something I was saying or doing or whatever. It doesn't matter. But they were mixing it up with square miles and cubed miles. I won't even go into it. But other than that, all I got was that that a curved radius is just a non-traditional radius. That's the main pushback I got. That you can have a curved radius. That's the main pushback I got, besides the nonsense about the maths, was that you can have a curved radius. It's just a non-traditional radius.
Non-traditional? Are you having me on?
Yeah. Proto said that to me, and others agreed with him. A non-traditional radius.
So,
Does that
speaking
have
of
a non-traditional baseline as well?
Well, I'm going to ask the question about axial rotation, but before I do, I'm going to highlight that Wolfie hasn't learned his lesson, the dumbass. So he's still in your comments talking about drift in relation to what the plane accounts for. So you got Wolfie 6020. Just read out one of these paragraphs. What changes when you fly across the equator is direction of drift. Okay, Wolfie, clearly still failing to understand the claim that the globe makes, which is Coriolis drift, something only observable as you turn beneath. You complete dumbass. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Just to jump back on the Wolfie bandwagon and to link it to what Eli's
You're a bit
saying.
quiet. You're a bit quiet, Adam.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking. This is another good example of what they do, which is to jump on something false and attack that. So, Rue Hiffs contacted me this morning, having to go to Brian's presentation. Explain to Brian that the surface area of a sphere is not as simple as pi r squared, which I think was gone through last night. So then all we've got is he then attacks me in a weak way.
So he can demonstrate a limited attention span and his ability to ad hom you. That's it. That's the response.
That's it. That's all I've had this morning. But literally to point to create a straw man. But like I said, to tell Brian that the surface area of a circle that is not on a spherical surface is not as simple as pi r squared, which I know we covered.
Well, Adam, I asked a couple of them, could they tell me what the correct nautical mile squared is for the surface area of their globe? And none of them would come back and say it, because that's what I wanted them to do, because it's much more devastating than what I put in.
It's not even that, Brian. They've got nothing. It's clearly over their heads. So the point I'm making is this is quite traditional, is to come back with a straw man argument, something you didn't do. Do you know what I mean? And just try and attack, because they're poisoning the well, isn't it? Look.
Well, they want to attack the maths and say, so they can say that anyone asks them about it in the future, oh, he got his maths wrong, which is not true. None of my maths were wrong. Or my conversion from statute to nautical was wrong for the squared mile, for the mile square. But that's because that was unintentional. I knew what the right one was, but I did the intention. I intentionally did it wrong, so they would correct me, which they always do, right? Try and jump on something, and when they correct me, it's worse for them, not better.
So I realized what's going on. Now, when we're talking to them, we are talking to them. When they're talking to us, they're dog whistling to the ignorant, which is typically the audience, the section of the audience that we're trying to get the point across to, right? So if you say something like, well, for instance, the horizon is a geometric consequence of the size of the sphere, 3,959 miles is the radius, and then they have these formulas online and yada, yada, yada. Once you say that, sometimes the tactic is, oh, I see what you're saying, and then they'll say what you didn't say. And when you start arguing about that, the audience member who's ignorant doesn't recognize at that moment that what you said is the rhetoric. They're hearing what the other person said that you said, because they put it in dumb layman terms. It's like, well, I can understand what he said. Is that what you're saying? And you're like, no. But they don't understand the claim in the first place. So it's a wash always. Either a wash or they're convinced by Glober.
Just in regards to radius, I want to read out Theo Megawirty's super chat, but I'm going to slightly paraphrase it. So your wife isn't cheating on you with me. You just have a non-traditional open marriage. Thank you for the super chat, Theo Megawirty.
By the way, Brian, saw your shows this morning. I couldn't catch them yesterday, but I watched them this morning when I woke up. Awesome shit, brother.
Thanks, Chocolate.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That's funny.
So given that there's a fair degree of connection within the flat Earth community to the effects of magnetism and a bait and switch with ether, I can only assume that this is going to get covered on tonight's show, so it's my opportunity to plug that show. So be here or be sphere for Quantum Erasers Ballbusters, 7 p.m. UK, 1 p.m. Central Standard. And we're going to be covering the ether. So there's a summary show, in essence, is what this Ballbusters will be. Wrapping up some of the issues that have been covered in this particular stint. There's been many of discussion in regards to ether. So check it out. It'll be on Quantum Eraser YouTube channel this evening if you're in the UK, or this afternoon if you're in the States. Check it out.
You said we're covering the ether? What's that?
Good question. We'll be covering that as well. So be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel later on this evening for us in the UK. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What is it?
Gravity? Space-time bending.
What's that?
A fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian geometry bending.
Cool.
Who's traveled to the fourth dimension to validate that?
Sorry, did you say travel? You mean in physical terms? No. This is only existent in maths. There is no travelling to a fourth dimension. We don't have a fourth dimension. You can describe. See, maybe I can level this confusion. You can describe things in the maths of that fourth dimension travelling and influenced by that fourth dimension. You can describe that travel in that maths of that geometry. In this case, fourth dimensional pseudo-Riemannian four space-time.
While simultaneously just living in the reality of the third dimension.
Yeah, the three-dimensional length, breadth, and depth that we experience in physical terms isn't going to be describing or experienceable with a fourth-dimensional description of a journey. That isn't possible. But you can describe a journey within fourth-dimensional space-time in the maths and geometry of fourth-dimensional space-time. Hope that's clear.
Sounds a bit superfluous.
I mean, it's a conceptual realm, Arwin. So, I mean, superfluous is one way to describe it. It's also simultaneously the worldview of the Western civilization that we experience.
Well, it's supposed to be, but is it really? Or
yeah, it is really in the mind's eye of those people in the Western world. Yes, most people think that is true.
Yeah, but do they actually know what it is they think is true?
No, but they believe that clever. I like it. No, they believe a different type of gravity that they were taught at school, unless they got to university level where they were told that the gravity they were taught at school isn't correct, and it's actually the Einsteinian gravity I just described. That would be bending space-time. Most people are under the misapprehension that mass attracting mass, and therefore you pressing against the ground when you merely stand up, is gravity. Incorrectly so, it's not. It's the bending of a fourth-dimensional space-time.
So there's always a switch going on, I noticed. Even in schooling, they teach you one thing in grade school. When you go into higher learning, then they teach you the pseudo-Riemannian four-space nonsense. Okay, I got it.
At university, yeah. Or college, as you guys call it.
Well, where else is the medium of light supposed to propagate as a wave?
Light does not propagate.
Wait, but
as a wave.
Right before we get all into there, if that's where y'all going, it's like here we are again. It's just the wayward traveler that comes along, reads a bit of literature and goes, "Oh, Einsteinian gravity and Newtonian gravity is different." And then you have the I don't know if to call them the globe peddler or the anti-flag. I don't know which one to call them. They'll say to the audience, "No, they're the same. They work together." It's like it. No, well, okay, fine. Show me that.
You can't. You can't show. Hold on. You can't show a fourth dimension in a three-dimensional realm. That's not possible. You can't. They're not interchangeable. They're a completely different geometry.
So then how can they work together?
They don't work together.
They're incompatible mathematically.
Completely. They're totally different geometry. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline.
Negative.
They like to say they have, but they never really prove it.
Well, no, they always measure it
Well,
off a flat baseline.
Celestial
Yeah,
navigation,
navigation
works,
wouldn't work.
and it's working on a
otherwise.
globe.
I like to refer to McToon's little escapade.
What, offering up flat Earth elevation angles and asking us how they work on a flat Earth? Yeah, great.
Wait a second. They say that celestial navigation works and it's working on a globe. Therefore, you can get an elevation angle from a curved surface because they're navigating. They always have.
Out to
That would be a violation of the celestial sphere. Sorry.
It would be a violation of the celestial sphere model. Ask Dad anything, says from the super chat. Is this the hashtag size matters era? Question mark. Thanks, Brian and company. Thanks for the super chat. Ask Dad anything.
Thank you.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over here.
Is what you learned in school evidence?
Depends what you learned. What do you tell me?
Well, they told me 91 back then, but I think it's 93 now. So what evidence do they have of that?
91
think they
million
have any.
miles. That's what you're talking, right? Be specific.
93.
What?
93 million miles. Wouldn't that make the sun illuminate the sky at night as well?
It's just calculated based on like Venus comparison, angular size, etc. I think something like that. I don't remember.
Venus compared to what? Earth?
The presupposition of Earth size and then Venus being the same and then angular size, something. It works on based on that, right, guys?
No, you can't have angular size on the globe. It doesn't account for any perspective. All globe mathematics are all orthographic.
I know that, but that's a straw man response.
I love it. Arwin's Baldwin comes out of him immediately and claims straw man. Yeah, Brian, that's right.
It was to what I was saying. It's true, though. I said it is true, but it's just not like how did they establish that number? The number is somehow established and then in a mathematical framework, and that was originally based on the assumption that Venus was the same size as Earth and the presupposition of Earth size, and it being a ball.
Well, you have to start with the angular size of the sun. So once they started with that, the average angular size of the sun, then they can make up all kinds of rubbish. I could do the same, and so could you.
Yeah, but how did they establish the 93 million miles?
Okay. They took a presuppositional R value measurement from a geometric horizon that they cannot see. They then superimposed that Earth-based R value onto Venus so that they could apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion for the scaling values. Because, as you look at the lights in the sky, you do not know their size or their distance. So you need to assume one. In this case, Venus is assumed to be, quote, Earth's twin. That is merely Christian Huygens superimposing Earth's radius value onto Venus to give them scale. From there, you can derive the distances and sizes of all of the celestial items based on Kepler's third law. Ergo, you end up with a 93 million mile sun.
Right, so I did describe it roughly. You said it perfectly. I did not, without any references, but I basically got the gist of it then.
Hold on, and nobody questioned this nonsense when it was taking place? Nobody said,
no,
how
nobody
you
listened to
do that?
Brian. Nobody listened to the response. Do you want to just step in again, Brian?
Yeah, it's all based on the angular size of the sun. You can't have angular size on a globe because there is no perspective or accounted for within globe mathematics, or globe mathematics or autographic. And the globe is back engineering of flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, which is also perspective, so not globe.
Perspective hijacking works for both the begging the question proof of nothing Earth curve calculator and for their derivation of the land masses onto their maps by way of the celestial sphere model. Well, that celestial sphere model is made up based on the perspective view you get when you look at the stars, in this case Polaris, and how it would appear as you back away from it. Well, if you're backing away from Polaris and it drops towards the horizon, what you're describing in essence is how things appear in perspective. So by comparison, if you back away from the Eiffel Tower, the top of it drops towards the horizon. That's a perspective detailed description, not anything to do with the orthographic Muppet view representation where they take the differential from two flat planes in the measurement and describe it in orthographic view as an Earth curve. Meanwhile, you can't acquire the measurement in the first place. Where they start, this all begins with the angle, and you can't have that on a globe. So they can back engineer it and describe it after the fact as though you've rotated a protractor through 1 degree, but in reality you're measuring an angle off a flat plane. Thank you, Brian.
Can I just point it out
Thank
that
you, Nathan.
the eclipse in 2017 debunked the model as well. That's why they want to push the distance to the sun further out. They can't, that they have to change the whole model. But they were expecting the moon to be eclipsing the sun for 4 hours, and in reality it was 5 hours. So 1 hour of discrepancy, meaning that the sizes are not matching their maths. So they realized that already. So they want to change again the distance to the sun.
Sure, but you can change it based on the scaling values in Kepler's third law to anything you like, so long as you assume either a distance or a size. So you just change Venus. You just take it out of the rhetoric that it's Earth twin. Bob's your uncle. Give it a different scaling value. Make it bigger, make it smaller. Do whatever you like. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No.
What is gas pressure?
The pressure a gas produces?
Force
So
the
then, why
gas.
is the
Force gas exerts on the walls of its container.
Did you
so
catch
then
that?
why is the air thinner in Mount Everest?
Say again, Neil. Why is the air pressure around Mount Everest?
No. They say, why is the air thinner? It doesn't. It's not. It can keep going.
Because the temperature is
Thinner
different.
there.
No,
And
but there's
we
more
also
to it.
have-
air
It's not just
in the
temperature.
first place.
There's a whole raft of effects. But in terms
Yeah,
of
but
what gas
is
is
that the way
doing, it's dissipating. It's created at ground level amongst the vegetation, of which there is very little at the top of Everest. And shockingly, it defies the conventional belief of what gravity is to make its way up. But as anything expands into a given volume, it becomes thinned out. It disperses. It's a law of nature. Dispersion is an entropic effect. Well, as it's highly concentrated when it leaves the ground or comes out of the plant, it gets less concentrated as it expands to fill the space. Now, for us to be able to measure any pressure ever, there must be containment to form the pressure, so we can then later describe a gas pressure gradient. But that is merely the entropic effect of dispersion.
Right, and it's the reason. That's the reason why the air is thin. Of course, we have containment, because if there was no containment, there would be no air.
Well, there'd be no pressure, correct?
Yeah.
The gas would fill the space,
Yeah,
and if the
it's a
available
gradient.
space was the space of the sky vacuum as claimed, then the gas would fill that available volume, and we'd all be dead. We'd have no gas to breathe.
Correct. Not just the Queen. All of us.
Neil.
Yes.
Mount Everest is 5.4 miles high. most clouds aren't 5.4 miles high. There is what's known as the air boundary layers, right? And the air boundary layer is where water vapor condenses and becomes a cloud, right? And this will change depending on temperature. So in warmer temperatures, that air boundary layer will be higher. In colder temperatures, it will be lower, right? So the reason that we have such high pressure close to the surface is because we need it to live, number one. But number two is because the majority of our air, and I mean the absolute majority of it, is below cloud level. There isn't this situation where you just kind of what's the best way to put it? There isn't a situation where there is this build-up of gas happening above us. That's not happening. We have gas cycles that cycle with the earth, the surface, all the time, every day. We have air boundary layers. We have temperature, and we up above us, high above us, there is a low-grade vacuum, and we have gas pressure. All these things can't be had without a container. There is no way to have any of these things without a container. So who cares what they say about Mount Everest? Most of them couldn't even tell you what height it is.
I'm pretty sure that concludes the housekeeping. We've covered all of them, have we not?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Excellent. Damn sight quicker than it took yesterday. Last question came out about 50 minutes past. There we go. Very good. So is there any more thoughts from the Discord server in regards to Brian's excellent presentation yesterday? It was new to most of you guys yesterday, which is why I'm asking.
I said it was awesome.
One guy in the comments, which I must admit I really did laugh when I read it, said, "This argument's getting really old." I said to him, "This is the first day it's been released."
What an idiot. Well, a lot of people claim that all we do here is measure angles and talk about measurements and things like that. So, we only talk about the things that devastate the globe.
There's a criticism of the show, which is that it's repetitive, and that's intentional by design. Understanding a lot of this information from me personally took it being repeated to me on multiple occasions. With me having the ability to say, "I don't understand. Can you explain that again?" What, the thing I explained 3 seconds ago? Yes, please. So repetition is how you learn things. Well, by that same nature, there's always going to be a certain level of refinement to what we do here, even in the things that we repeat. But there's also the constant addition. It's not a stationary object. It's more like a glacier or something. Yeah, it's moving slowly. You're still going to hear the same core information on a daily basis at Flat Earth Debate. And yes, the nuances are sometimes very subtle, but those nuances get discussed, and it's polished into this blade that we describe as the cutting edge of this subject. That isn't to say that there isn't sometimes a new hilt, or whatever they call it, handle added to the sword every now and again, or whatever. There are things added. And in this case, literally in the last 24 hours, there's been a new argument presented, a new arrow in our quiver, or however they describe it. That's what we've got. Just another argument.
It's dynamic.
Yeah, it just adds another layer to what we present here. And, those things don't come along more than once or twice a year. This year's been 2, I think. We've got the elevation angle argument as a whole, came out 2022 and was refined and really started to get ground in 2022. And now the CEA argument. Again, 2022, but we're getting on. What is it? 9th month? So yeah, go on.
There's also the argument for the pilot and mariner who were 6 miles apart at the equator, getting the same zero to Polaris. That's also an absolute destruction, because the reason the mariner gets the zero in globe rhetoric is that because the Earth curve got in the way. But what's getting in the way of the pilot? Why is he seeing zero?
Right. I mean,
curve.
these are subtle refinements to other arguments that you can't deny in that regard. We're talking about an expansion to the geometric physical limitation that is Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the, what was that again? Oh yeah, observer's height in feet. Ergo, their claim of a physical geometric sphere edge limitation directly has connected to it the ability to bring back and obscure things based on height, except the stars. They have absolutely no effect. Doesn't matter if you're a couple of miles up and you're looking at the star. It'll be on the horizon for you and on the horizon for the guy on the ground. What do you hear him cry? Oh, well, that's because it's all coming, the light's coming all parallel. Oh, really? So not affected by 7/6 of the Earth's radius, terrestrial refraction, always never to be violated. The hand in front of my face isn't really there. It's actually all straight lines. Yeah, it's a complete mess at the moment for globe believers. I mean, a real mess.
Yeah, by even claiming parallel light rays means that you're relinquishing Earth curve. That means it was never Earth curve getting in the way of anything. It was only ever an effect of parallel light rays.
Precisely. Precisely. Where's the differential between the two planes if they're all coming in parallel? You haven't got a differential to describe the curve with if they're all parallel. Further to that, you're telling us since 2020 how non-parallel, non-straight, definitely not straight, always bent at a rate of R they are. They're just so screwed. Not a good time to be a globe believer.
Just to add, when they stated parallel light rays as a rebuttal to how the pilot sees zero at the same time as the mariner at the equator, how they both get zero to Polaris, even though the pilot is 6 miles above the equator and the mariner is on the sea, is taking an angle off the sea level. When they said parallel light rays, it was a pure panic response. So, and then they had to stick with it. So they had no choice. They said, they had no choice but to stick with this. And it means absolutely nothing. I mean, parallel light rays absolutely explains nothing. Do you know what I mean? All it does is relinquish their Earth curve claim. They just had nothing. So
it does two things.
I told you that was the quick say something.
Yeah, but it not only relinquishes their Earth curve, it takes their positioning data to the centre of what is effectively then the celestial sphere model, not the globe Earth model. The globe becomes a globe burger with you at the centre of it. When they move these light rays parallel, your positioning becomes central to the sphere, doesn't it? I mean, in reality, that model that they're actually detailing is you on a plane with the perspective view of the heavens above you and looking at it based on the angle from the plane. But they dissect a sphere and put you in the middle of it to achieve that when they describe parallel light rays. That's what they're actually doing. So we're not standing at the centre of a sphere. You can completely remove the globe from this description and have you standing on a plane measuring an angle to a star precisely as you do in reality. There's no, oh, well, no, that doesn't work in reality because your globe model's actually an orthographic view. You're not going to be detailing how perspective or angular sizes work for things. There's no issues in that regard. You're just measuring off a plane the angle. There's nothing complicated about it in terms of how it works, because the world isn't very complicated in that regard. We just live on a plane.
Can I give an example of just how thick and stupid Wolfie 6020 is?
Your camera's on, by the way.
Earlier,
did you know your camera's on?
Sorry?
Your camera's on.
Me? Oh, sorry. It's only looking up.
You don't live on a plane.
But how stupid Wolfie 6020 is when I asked him earlier, early this morning, why does the pilot get a 0 degrees to Polaris when flying over the equator, and a mariner below him or on the sea on the water also gets a 0 degrees to Polaris? Where is our curve, right? And you only came back with, because when you're in an airplane, the horizon is several degrees below you. It's like 0 degrees, Wolfie. Right? So several degrees is not 0 degrees. Right?
Hold on. Well, that would mean, hold on. By extrapolation, that would mean that his view should be, with parallel light rays that they're claiming, of a dropped horizon below the star. In other words, you should have it a certain degree above the horizon if he's claiming it drops. It's like, okay, well, if they're all coming in parallel, you've got to have a gap between that star on the horizon and the horizon, i.e. it's no longer on the horizon if the horizon's claimed to have dropped because you're at elevation. What, precisely like it's claimed to be doing in your Earth curve maths? This is a massive problem, Brian. You're right. This could be this counts as a third thing in 2022, definitely. They haven't got Earth curve to block the stars. When they raise in altitude, their assertion of 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, giving you a geometric sphere edge horizon, no longer applies.
Exactly. And when the comment you put up earlier, or you were referencing earlier from Wolfie, that's a reply to me on about several different things. One of them was to do with the gyros. But that was when he wrote in that, he says, in that comment that you showed, he wrote, because the horizon is several degrees below the airplane. It's like, well, in that case, you can't get a 0 to Polaris, if that's your claim. You know what I mean? You can't be getting a 0 to Polaris, a 0 degrees horizontal measurement, which is what the bubble sextant will do to Polaris, if the horizon is several degrees below you.
Right, it's no longer 0 degrees. Oh my God. Wolfie, you're dumb. What has it been? Not even a full month since the last correction when we pointed out that your drift that you think you're accounting for in your plane and are reiterating this very comment is only observable as you turn beneath things. And now you're claiming the measurements that you take to the stars are going to be influenced by the drop in the horizon that you're not seeing? You complete bonehead. Wolfie's becoming very embarrassing. Almost a liability for the globe, I would say.
I don't think they think things, Brian, I don't think that they think things through. They just blurt it out of their mouth, whatever they say, and then they deal with the consequences later, which they never do anyway.
But that's what Chocolate said. Quick, say something. That's what they're at. Quick, say something.
The problem
just
is
say something, spew it out. It doesn't matter. That's where we get some of the best quotes. When someone is up against the wall, like Tim Osman, or in this case, Wolfie, they spew out some garbage. You get gems like nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. Nobody's expecting to see physical geometry. Is that right, Planet Walk? Hey, Roofy, how's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy?
The problem I see, and we've all talked about it, is the first lie, that you live on a globe, a sphere. So how do you take elevation angle measurements? Well, in the world's globular view, light must come in parallel because the angle is taken from a presupposed equatorial plane. Then that angle, using the equatorial plane as the baseline, is a corresponding angle to any part of a curved surface as long as you draw a tangent plane every time you do it. So they lied about the Earth first, then they needed a way, and they said, well, light must and has to come in parallel for celestial navigation to work on a globe surface, because we're getting the angle from the center from a plane, and we need a tangent plane on the curved surface, and those two would be corresponding angles. So now it's come back to bite them.
Well, the claim of parallel light rays was something that they needed to hijack Eratosthenes' observation or demonstration, because within his demonstration, he proved that this angle can't be the length of the shadow can't happen on a curved surface with a close and local sun. The sun would have to be very far away and a much bigger diameter, and the rays of it come in parallel for those shadows to work. So they had to start. That was when the thing that they promoted to kids in school as the measurement of a globe Earth's radius, right? That very demonstration by Eratosthenes, that was hijacked because it proved a flat Earth. Just like some of the official shows off of National Geographic and others have said, right, that they have to use a big angle to do it. Yeah, it's actually an adjacent of 500 nautical or 500 statute miles. That's how long your adjacent has to be, a horizontal adjacent, for that to happen. But for the shadows to work on a globe with a radius of 3959, then the sun has to be much bigger and further away, so the light comes in parallel. Otherwise, they won't get the shadows.
Well, that's exactly
most ballers don't even know that. Go on.
But that shadow is the same one at the center of the Earth in their equatorial plane. It goes back to Hipparchus in King's Dethroned when he said, "I believe all the luminaries are infinite distance." No one checked it out. Everyone based everything on that. And so this lie has been building up and building up. Now it's time to tear it down as we are, and everyone's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Well, in the presentation last night, one of the things.
Just 1 second, Brian.
Sorry,
What did you want to add something, Abstruse? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we hear this all the time that if you lay down, you can see a sunset, and if you stand up, you see another one. And if you go to the top of the Burj Khalifa, you see a third one. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a bunch of famous people say this. Now, to be fair, this argument has come out years ago. It was back in 24/7 1.0. So over 3 years ago, McToon used to come on there before he got big. And we debated him then, and he was trying to use the stars going towards the horizon as proof that it wasn't perspective causing any effects of what we see in the sky. He was assuming object constancy in a physical 3D space. Now, part of the reason why they do this is because they need a unified model of the universe, right? So, for example, the universe here and over there is similar. Rather than thinking, oh, maybe the stars is a completely different realm than the Earth we live on. It's like they don't jive with that. They just assume it's all one big, Cartesian free space where objects exist within it. Like Darwin says all the time, they have object constancy bias. Same like a little child who hasn't yet reached 5 years old. They don't understand the difference between permanency of objects, right, and concepts. There's all kinds of experiments you can go and watch where kids finally have an epiphany that an object put in a box is still in the box, right? It's hilarious to watch adults do that same mental gymnastics to themselves. So
It's
back
actually
then we did argue with
physicality
McToon about the nature of perspective and lights approaching the horizon, right? And what is causing them. And I want to say we did have a kind of an angle on there where it was like, why don't the stars behave the same way the sun does? Because remember, the sun does allegedly have parallel light rays, yet they simultaneously claim that you can see two sunsets. So why can't you see two star sets? So an argument would go like this. So you explain the sun argument to them, or they explain it to you, and you say, okay, so your claim is that a star with parallel light rays, you can see twice if you raise your elevation set, correct? And they'll be like, yes. Then you say, okay, then how come that doesn't happen with any of the other stars besides the sun?
Yeah, beautifully and succinctly put. That's a great summary. Why can you have a sunset be brought back based on the obstruction? Because the limitation in the near foreground is what's claimed to cause it. If that's a claim of Earth curve obstruction, and then you raising above the obstruction to bring back the sun, the same effect should happen with the stars. You've got a physical obstruction to your view, you raise above it, and then it's not in the way anymore. Now that should be more exaggerated the closer to that physical limitation called Earth curve that we debunked in 2020 gets. But it isn't. That's not the case. So therefore, there is no horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height, because it would physically obstruct things that were behind it, like stars. And you'd raise above it and see them. We don't. So yeah, I'm definitely going to count this, Brian. It's the third. Alwyn calls it physical assumption bias. He tried to get it in the middle of your explanation, but yeah, you are describing the same thing. Yours is more eloquent. No offense, Alwyn.
Excuse me?
Okay, I will. So the celestial navigation videos, they all say if the light rays were not coming in parallel, it would be impossible to do celestial navigation from the surface of a globe, and how right they are, because they never do it from there. They do it from the equatorial plane, and through the Haversine formula, reify the surface of the Earth as the outside arc of a protractor.
Okay, so what 10th is describing now is the idea that you're standing in the center of a sphere. And I said earlier, that's actually you standing in the center of the celestial sphere model. Now, we don't reify this model either. We're just pointing out how when you're claimed to be standing on a plane in the middle of a sphere Earth, what we have fondly named the globe burger, the meaty center that is the globe Earth isn't required. It's surplus to requirements. Your angle measurement comes from the center of that surplus to requirement sphere and out to the stars that you're measuring with an angle. So if you're just standing on the surface measuring to the sky, what you're doing when you utilize that measurement isn't taken from the center of a sphere Earth. It's just that simple. But that's what they're claiming when they say the light comes in parallel. Furthermore, the light coming in parallel, aka straight, isn't conducive with their assertions that we've got a sphere-shaped air wrapping around a sphere-shaped planet, bending the light at a rate of the radius. It's just not conducive at all.
What they're doing is they are reifying the stars into what they believe the sun is. They have claims about the sun. Then they said all the stars are basically the same things. They're all suns as well. And then they have the pre-assumption that they behave the same as the sun. But we don't see star rays. We see what we call sun rays when they are coming down, diverging from the sun through clouds and stuff. That's when we see sun rays. That's when we get to see them. We don't see star rays. We see star light. I don't go out and go, wow, those star rays are blinding me tonight. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It's just making stuff up.
Just one last point. I do want to introduce QE to the conversation to plug the show that's going to go on this evening. But just a matter of interest, can you all see my screen being presented in G+ right now?
No.
Just click on my screen so you can.
Is it the one with the sun?
Yeah. Can someone
can
just show me where the parallel light rays are, please?
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's not the scale.
Right, irrespective of the scale, they're converging.
Sorry, no. Sorry, Matt, maybe you misheard me,
totally
Adam. No, sorry, I think there's been some breakdown in communication between myself and Adam, and I just need to get this clarified. No, not converging, Adam. No, that's not the globe rhetoric. Well, you're not listening. Parallel. What do you mean converging?
You said what's in that picture. There are no parallel rays in that picture.
Heresy.
It's because it's a misrepresentation. I mean, everybody knows that terrestrial refraction will also make sunlight that moves past the Earth bend a little in order to cause the crepuscular rays.
I thought
Sorry,
it was just
no. Their descriptions of this eclipse requires that they converge. Correct, Adam? Joking aside.
The light can't behave as previously claimed for this phenomena to occur within their model. It has to behave like this.
Just one more time, Adam, a little bit louder, please, just for the audience to just get that down, pegged.
Yeah, the light cannot behave as previously described for this effect to be created in their model. It has to behave as shown in the diagram to create a penumbra.
So calling all cars? What the hell? At the moment, we're being told about parallel light rays to overcome your little problems with not being able to get angles, unless you're talking from the center of a sphere Earth. But, I mean, this is definitely a mainstream claim in terms of how eclipses work, and this definitely isn't parallel. I mean, quite the contrary. I mean, that ruins this explanation. If you're going to claim parallel light rays, this doesn't work anymore. So come on, guys. I mean, why would you be telling us parallel?
Hold on, Nathan. I'll see your claim, and then I'll raise your claim with my claim from NASA that I just posted in Master Debaters, Master D. I want to present that real quick.
Okay, let's have a look at this. Now talk us through it.
Yeah.
What do you see? You see the sun with arrows going straight, pointing at the Earth and the Moon during the solar eclipse. I have the same type of diagram for the lunar eclipse. It's kind of different than the one that you had. When does that happen? And which one is correct? Because apparently we're being told simultaneously these are both correct. So
no, but this one is much better, and it also has this note, not to scale, which is perfect. Like, so they actually trying something.
But this
in the meantime,
this is looking so realistic, man. This is much more like the science fiction.
Okay. I've just figured the question to ask. Can you show me in this diagram umbra and penumbra, please?
No.
What do
It's
you mean,
over
no?
there.
Hold on. You just told me this was wonderful. Now show
Yes.
me umbra and
They
penumbra,
didn't take
please.
into account the
Oh, am I being
terrestrial
rumpused?
refraction
What's
that
going
would
on?
bend the light after it hit the Earth.
Check it out. Baldwin's launched very much into character. Why was I being rumpus during that? So was that a no chocolate before the Arwin rumpusing on behalf of Globers everywhere?
Yes, that's a no.
That's a no. Oh dear. Okay, let's just take this off screen then. I mean, just in case somebody who was telling us in the last few days about, parallel light rays.
I really like that visual. It's awesome, but they did not incorporate terrestrial refraction actually causing the umbra penumbra.
Oh, that's a third issue.
Okay.
That's even
Give it
further
up.
down the line, Arwin. That's another big problem.
I
sent
know.
I sent the other one that's got the lunar eclipse. It's literally the same thing. All they did was switch the moon and the Earth positions.
Yeah, that checks out.
Right. Well, the moon also has lunar refraction, kind of like terrestrial refraction, but slightly less. And that is what causes the parallel light rays from the sun hitting it or going past it to form the penumbra as well.
The moon
Lunar
got an
refraction?
atmosphere, has it? Arwin?
That's what I was waiting for Adam to pipe up. Go ahead, Adam.
If we're having lunar refraction and we assume that terrestrial refraction is due to the atmosphere, that would require a claim that the moon actually has an atmosphere.
Yeah, well, it is within the Earth's atmosphere, officially admitted. So it's just like 1/6 or something, or even less. It doesn't matter. There is some air there around the moon, so there will be minor terrestrial refraction, also known as
We can
lunar
get into this
You know
nonsense.
what? There will probably be just enough to create that effect, won't there?
Exactly.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's this
Thank you.
magic
Thank
zone
you.
where it just perfectly matches.
Thank you. We can get into this nonsense later. We're already 5 minutes over on the live show. QE, you there?
Good morning.
Can you plug your show for later, please? Our show.
Yes, this afternoon at 1 p.m. U.S. Central, 7 p.m. UK. Ballbuster Special Edition. Ether, Priest Exposed. Mae West is blushing. They're going to need a new priest. Thanks.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact, joined as a Patreon member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. And I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Okay.
The star rays are blinding me.
In the meantime,
I can't see the stars in my eyes.
So it'll be a selenilian eclipse for the East Coast where I live.
Cool.
How do you
Nice.
pronounce that again, Eli?
Seleninian.
Seleninian.
Or the selenahelian.
how much did you get?
Selenahelian, did you say? Selenahelian.
How much did you get
Yes.
when you sold that aluminum?
It's the Celine Dion.
Celine Dion selling aluminium during the Seleninian.
Oh, wow.
Go to my.
Ooh,
that's good.
I mean, Celine Dion
Yo,
is often confused with the Seleninian. It's a bit like celibacy and Shirley Bassey. Definitely not the same thing.
Celine
nearly like
Dion selling aluminium during the Selenilian.
Yeah, Celine Dion
So-
selling
It sounds
aluminium
harder than
during
it
the
actually is
Seleninian.
to say that.
Can I go ahead and mention something that's totally unrelated?
To Celine Dion.
1 second before you do.
Go ahead.
Can I finish? Can I finish the
Could Eli
crepuscular ray
finish?
picture?
What about Eli finishing before you finish?
Well, he wants to go unrelated. I want to wrap up the divergent race. There's a picture in Master D. If you can see, this is one of the things that is so obvious. I don't know why we let people even carry on like Baldwin does. This is how we see. This is divergent race. So for them to say light comes in parallel, just show pictures like this, and it's over.
Okie doke. I had it up the whole time we were discussing it, actually, but thank you for posting it. And yes, go ahead, Eli.
Well, it's just because of perspective.
Oh, Eli, man, you've got much more high pitch recently.
Well, I mean, I'm not in the city right now. I'm in New Jersey, so everything's quiet. But so it's a one-day thing. Brian, go ahead before I.
No, I was going to say it's funny that they made the name. They gave that particular eclipse the name Celine Leon, so it's difficult for people to say and remember. Kind of strange, isn't it?
All you gotta say is Celine Dion.
Not to mention the
How do you
moniker of
pronounce
the
it?
impossible eclipse, Selenilian.
Exactly. That's how I learned to pronounce it. Selenilian.
Celine Leon. Celine
No.
Leon. Celine Leon. SELEN.
Well,
Thank you.
You don't need to show non-parallel rays. They show it in their diagrams. They show it in every single one of their diagrams. They already do your work for you, right? And the comment about the 1/6 of the atmosphere, that's a negative. The Torr value of the moon is 10 to the negative 12th. We are at 760 Torr. It's a little bit more than 1/6.
Well, you tore that apart.
Yeah, just look at all their diagrams of any eclipse, and they're already going to show you non-parallel rays, every single one. Put the one, Nathan, put the one you had up before.
I don't know. I upped it with the one showing parallel light, so, and I got it from NASA, bro.
No, it is parallel. It's just
you're missing an
perspective.
umbra. Hey, umbra, you're missing an umbra, bruh.
Oh, don't worry, the
Bra
bra will
needs to
get it.
get his pen.
Thank you, Owen, for destroying the flow.
Sorry about that.
He's good at
Eli
that.
was going to say something. Eli,
I'm
let
still
me go
waiting
ahead
for
of him.
Eli.
Now, Eli's just being a dick.
I just want to expand on this
All right, I'm here.
number
Sorry.
effect, and I want to
That
defend
wasn't,
like
that wasn't an
leave
opening
Eli
for
alone.
you.
No, Arwen.
That wasn't an opening for you, Arwen. It's Eli.
well, he's
Alright,
not
yeah,
there.
so-
Sorry.
So we were
Eli, go.
So we were having a conversation 24/7, and Jose is like bringing up the fact that everywhere he goes on Facebook, it's like, because they have these astronomy groups and all this where they post in the NASA groups where they post the like randomly I will get something in my news feed like, oh, the new telescope took this picture or whatever. And I usually just kind of scroll past that. But he told me to look in the comments. So you look in the comments, and it's nothing but people saying that these are fake images and they're not real. We deserve better. What's going on? Why don't you address the flat earthers? And I'm thinking to myself, man, wait a minute. So for the people that are having conversation, not the people that are just telling you things, like, for instance, like them just posting, oh, look at this pretty stuff. But if there's actually conversation going on around the claim, everybody's talking about how ridiculous the claim is. And I'm like, I thought flat earth was dying, globe earthers. And everywhere I turn, there are these heliocentric non-believers everywhere. TikTok, it's like, it's everywhere.
Skeptics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
Eli. In
there's a lot
fact,
of skeptics
Eli,
about a lot of
One
things,
at a
Eli's
time.
including
Just
about
one
the
at a
ball
time.
Earth.
Actually, is
Eli's
Arwin talking
100%
this
right.
time? You're all rumpusing Arwin now. Go ahead, Arwin.
I was just saying there's a lot of skeptics everywhere about a lot of subjects, including about the ball Earth, right? Because the world is under siege and psychological warfare, and it's starting to shine through. So it's only bound to happen that a lot of skeptics would just start to come out and oppose it.
Eli's
I'm
right.
telling you, a lot of what you have to do is just get people to look. Literally, just me getting somebody, a few coworkers of mine, to just look at what they present to you as reality causes them to say, hold up, wait a minute, right? So they're counting on people just believing and not actually looking or thinking about it for themselves.
Correct.
They count on that.
Spot on. That's why we were suppressed in the way we were suppressed, because it didn't take much for the snowball effect to take hold really quickly, because you only had to get people to think about it for a few seconds to go, oh yeah, and then tell next man and tell next man, and if they can easily and readily find the information here on YouTube, then that snowball doesn't stop rolling.
Like you can have gas.
Yep.
Dana. Dude, why didn't I think of that?
I did
By the way-
contemplate that, but you just
By the way,
contemplate
next-
it and then put it on the back burner.
By
you
the way,
think-
identify next man because she's my cousin.
You put it on the back burner, or you look into it and then find a bit of a confirmation bias for what you're trying to prove, which is gas will stick to the ball, not fly off into space, gravity. So you go, yeah, that'll do, yeah, and then you just stop. That's enough to stop you worrying about it, that it could be wrong. So that's typically what people will do. They'll contemplate some of these things, but they'll go, nah, it can't be a glaring issue like that.
Was
Well-
for me. Yeah.
Paula put something in the war room there a week or so ago. I can't remember what it was. Something super heliocentric. And she said, this is interesting, look in the comments. And the comments were tearing it apart. The comments were like 80% of the comments were like, this is some nonsense, this is wrong, this guy, blah, 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 this is wrong. How can that be with this thing? So I think there's a huge amount more people out there who are attacking the heliocentric model than we're aware of.
Well,
They're just not at the point.
you're
where-
talking about, that's interesting because that's the silent majority. When we have the bus stop example, when you've got a couple of people stood at a bus stop and they're talking about flat Earth, and there's either the scenario when everyone around them scorns them and tells them they shouldn't be talking about it, or just sits quietly thinking idiot, or if the silent majority who aren't typically leaving comments and are watching the videos / talking to next man about it go, yeah, I think that too. Now, if that's the case in the comments, perhaps what I just assessed literally 3 minutes ago is completely wrong. It didn't matter. You couldn't get the genie back in the bottle. Perhaps it's because of the prevalence of social media and the way that the world is orchestrated in that regard. People don't have necessarily any real friends. Most of them are online fake friends in the hundreds. And that information travelled real quick. Ergo, they haven't managed to put the genie back in the bottle where they might have been able to do it in the 90s and the 70s and the 50s.
Hang on. Everyone on this call is an e-friend of mine.
Yeah. That
So
doesn't
there's
take
nothing
away
wrong
from my
with
point.
that.
No, but that's different, isn't it? You're not pressing the flesh with us. I'm just saying what people consider to be friendship in 2022 is very different to what people consider to be friendship in 1990. And you would not be my friend in 1990. No offense. That's just not how it worked. Now, there was
The circumstances were different.
Yeah,
right. Totally, with different world, different balance, different needs,
and
for
different
your
suppression requirements. Ergo,
Exactly.
you can quash.
How do you know?
Much more room, and much more like, oh, we need friends to see something creative.
Yes, that's not my overall point, but thank you for elaborating on the
saturated.
build-up, Alwyn, for elaborating on that build-up that wasn't necessarily part of the point. Yeah, yes, that's
Sorry.
true, but the point is you can suppress the information in the 90s when people have got phone lines and might still have pen pals and all the rest of it. Your overseas friend certainly wasn't going to be a £500 phone call bill each month, but it might have been several letters. Snail mail, right? That was the case in the 90s. Bulletin boards and various other things that came around because of the internet also was very, very small, very limited user base, and very easily suppressed also. Well, now it's a totally different world in terms of social media. Where I'm saying you just need to put the genie back in the bottle by stopping people from finding it continually, making it more difficult to find, not necessarily getting rid of the people because that looks bad, but just making it more difficult to find, hasn't been enough. And these comments that's being described by 10th now suggests that. Nobody's going to disagree with that, which also suggests that they haven't managed to get the genie back in the bottle this time. And I know they've let it out intentionally in years gone by. You can see the remnants of it.
So are you saying? Hang on, right. So are you saying in 1990 a postage stamp kept you from being my friend?
In a nutshell, I'm not a big writer. I mean, I've taught my kids to have a couple of American pen pals, but no, I'm just too lazy. So no.
So I have to expect collect calls from you only, right?
Look, if there was an apocalypse 10th, you and I are just going to have to accept that, yeah, I'm not going to be asked to write letters to you.
I thought you were going to say you were going to go over and stay with him in his bomb shelter.
No.
Wait, you got a bomb shelter?
You and me, Brian, we'll be heading up to Scotland, which will then be prime real estate as we watch everyone else drown.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that nuclear weapons don't exist?
Brian, are you giving up your bomb shelter?
And neither does giant flooding.
I'm an E friend of 10th, and I'm hoping to upgrade to being a D friend sometime.
Well, Brian just gave up his reservation for the bomb shelter to Nathan. That's pretty nice of you.
Yeah,
What
very
about
kind.
me?
He wasn't offering, but very kind of you all the same, Brian.
I was talking about both of us going over.
Neil, you're just gonna have to escape from New York. The movie.
Are we all looking forward to the Quantum Eraser show, or Ballbuster show?
Yes, I can't freaking wait. I wish it would happen now.
I don't know. How did he get a picture of a priest exposing himself?
Sorry, what now?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see that.
They found it in a little boy's closet. Pictures.
He said the priest exposed himself.
Did he?
It's funny. I actually just got happy seeing as I'm scrolling through YouTube, and Neil deGrasse Tyson has a new video about the Coriolis that was released like 13 days ago. I haven't watched it yet, but I just ran across it, so I'm all like, "Yeah, I want to hear some more nonsense. Let's go."
He's been hearing from us. I'm telling you.
Especially because the reason I looked at it is because, or I saw it because I ran across another one that he just released 2 days ago, titled "Is the Big Bang Theory Wrong?" So I thought that was very interesting. So
wait, the Big Bang
no!
Theory?
Hold on, Chocolate. Let me just clear what Chocolate's in. Are you hinting at the idea or the notion that there might actually be a mainstream paradigm change going on around us as we speak? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to take it that way. Maybe that's a little conspiratorial or whatever, but I don't know. I see Neil deGrasse coming out with a lot more, and now he calls them explainer videos. It seems like he feels the necessity, or they, or whatever, feels the necessity to explain certain things now that we should just all apparently know. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that, but maybe.
They're moving into begging the question, but they're trying to establish that begging the question is okay again. Look at all of the begging the question that's going on here, in the conversations we had all last week and before that. So I think they're reestablishing the actual programming of the human brain. The rhetoric doesn't matter.
But hold on, he calls his videos explainer videos. Why not science? Wasn't that supposed to be science?
That's another sidebar.
Well,
did you want to add something, abstruse? Were you trying to get a word in there?
Yeah, there is a paradigm shift going on. It's been happening for the past year or so. I mentioned it here before, where a lot of people believe in the Big Bang and they think that it gives them material causation for the world, but it doesn't, because you need a precedent cause. Things just don't cause themselves, right? That's the first cause fallacy, or the infinite regression fallacy. So they recognize that the Big Bang doesn't work to remove the necessary antecedent, which is a creator. So now they've basically jumped past the Big Bang to a state beyond it. And one of the reasons why they had to do this is dark matter and stuff like that. So we know that Newton's idea that he had about gravity required an infinite universe, and he himself rejected it partially because of that reason. So they came in with the inflationary universe, which is constantly expanding faster than the speed of light. Problem with that is that if that's the case, the things that they need for it to work, in order for them to exist, nullify the Big Bang. So you can't have a heliocentric expanding Big Bang universe with an expanding universe. So you reach an incoherence. Now you need to change your model. Now we have seen, occasional atheists in the flat earth, right? And their argument is you can't prove that the earth wasn't always here. Therefore, it doesn't need a creator. And likewise, the physicists are taking this same avenue. So for example, to avoid the first cause infinite regression fallacy, it goes like this. Well, God is eternal. Therefore, you don't have a problem. Now, what they're going to say is the universe is eternal. Therefore, you don't have the problem. Now, mark my words and mark them well. All these people that you've just been talking about that are on social media saying flat earth this, flat earth that, they haven't been here for the journey. They're riding on the coattails of precedent laid groundwork, and they have no idea why they're reaching the conclusions that they're reaching. And they, because their truth has been pulled out from under them, are now vulnerable to the new paradigm that's going to be inserted. And I guarantee you, the ether argument will be, regardless if ether is true or not, is irrelevant to this point. It will be used as a spiritual claim against the material universe as an eternal, self-sustaining universe that doesn't require a specific deity.
That's incorrect. That's second law of thermodynamics violation.
Sure, but most people don't know
think
that,
it's
so
his
they don't
claim.
care.
It's not his claim. He's just saying what he thinks is going to be rolled out. It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
They can't roll it out because physicists can't get behind that because it's a second law of thermodynamics violation. I don't care what you say is eternal.
That's not been a problem in forming a narrative in the past, Kiwi.
Yeah, I know, but to anyone that can fog a mirror, that's still a second law of thermodynamics violation.
Yeah, you got it. So now we have to escape that. So how do we escape that? It's very simple. Idealism. And most people are already, to be fair, like we've seen this happen live with people that we've put into a corner who are famous globe earthers like Rumpus. And his final conclusion, well, is if the earth is flat, but it appears to me like a globe, then that means that reality is just a subjective experience. It's not objective in any sense. And in that case, laws of nature are just subjective rules of a mind. They don't actually have any concreteness to them. And so all you need is some kind of, and it just has to be plausible. It just has to be plausible just enough for people to believe it, that the state of reality is in constant flux. And the mind, which is eternal, and the reality that we see, which is eternal, work together to render it to us. And now if you say that the universe is pure potential, right? So it spontaneously arrives from a point of pure potential. Pure potential is a concept. Okay, this is very similar to Buddhistic monism and other types of monism, to where everything in aggregate is God. And we know God must be a mind. So the universe itself is a mind, and therefore you remove a specific creator and you just make it like the universe itself is sentient in the sense that matter itself is sentient. And then you say, okay, that's incoherent too. Well, then you just say, oh, well, everything's just spiritual. And if everything's just spiritual, then that's basically idealism. And if you remove an objective standard, then you have subjective idealism, which is a philosophy.
That sounds like the melting of the bridge between the distinguishment between physical and spiritual realities. Because that's the whole point about physics, is that it's just about the dirt. It's really just about that, right?
Well, the physical, yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a subjective or an objective thing. It's just this is what the physical realm is. Yeah, there may be more, but that's not a part of this field.
Oh God, you
of
ruined
this
it right at the
discussion.
end. What is? No. Physics, that's science, deals with cause and effect.
Yes, but why is it like that? Because there needs to be this anchor point of just physical reality distinguishment from the spiritual to keep that straight. Because the spirit can dwell all kinds of directions, including complete malarkey. So that's
Look,
why.
this was
Okay,
this
as
is
much
why
as
I asked.
as much as I
Hang on,
agree with
Nathan.
QE, he's right. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. That's how we'd overcome it. I still appreciate your description of what, when I asked you to speculate quite specifically, what could be a paradigm change that's going to take place. So to have something so detailed, speculative or otherwise, was fascinating. So thanks, Abstruse.
No,
I enjoyed it too.
Indeed,
I,
agreed.
I want. Ugh. I want to say I agree with him 100% because this is why I asked Whitsitt that question on that one show. I said, if I was to concede everything about ether for argument's sake only, what then? What's next? And I wanted to hear what he would say. And he ended up by saying free energy. But in between free energy and my question, I said, is it divine? And he said, yes. He said he has his own personal view of it. So there's his personal view of what divine is, the mind, the universe, a sentient mind, but not God that has a judgment day and all that. So the book The Secret said you could tap into the universe, and whatever your reality is because of that universe and you becoming one. So if you say it and believe it, it's going to happen. So yeah, I see it all changing towards this.
Well, one of my points last night, I was talking when I was on Witsitt's show, I had a couple of main points, and that's really all I really stuck with. But one of my main points to him was ether, right, as a claim, is basically a spiritual claim because it's outside, the claim exists outside of our 3D reality, right? So the point I made to him was, if you're going to claim at that point, like, I don't know how well I got it across, but at that point, if you're going to claim that something that's outside of our 3D reality is the cause of magnetism and electricity, then at that point, you might as well just go, at that point, it's not actually correct because you might as well just go straight to the source and just say God is the cause. At that point, God is the cause of these things. So as ether would only be a product of God, if you know what I mean. That was my point. It's like, if you're going to talk about something that's outside of our 3D reality and it's not focused on the 3D reality, and in 3D reality, it's interacting with 3D reality, but we don't experience it because it's outside our experienceable reality, then at that point, you might as well just go to the source and say God is the cause of magnetism and electricity, because that is the cause. God is the cause of magnetism and electricity. If you're going to go outside of our 3D realm, where we have a cause and effect situation, where this effect we see in our 3D reality is caused by this other thing in our 3D reality. You know what I mean? So that was one of my main points with him, and he didn't disagree. He didn't disagree because it wasn't really something you could disagree with. Like, if you're going to go into a different realm, if your claim is going into that other realm, the spirit realm, then, or the spirit world or whatever, then you're going to have to just go straight to the source. God is the cause.
But that's what they're saying, Brian. Except
No,
their
that's
God
not what they're
is.
saying. Oh, that was annoying.
Yeah.
No, that's not what they're saying. No. Hello. Their claim, their position, is in regards to a philosophy, and I think Whitsitt describes it as a framework. Their actual claim is that a framework, a convention or philosophy, causes things in the physical realm. That simply is not the case. In the same way as fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian four space-time doesn't cause anything in the three-dimensional realm that we actually experience, this is no different. Conceptual frameworks don't cause anything. They claim it causes
No.
all sorts of things, like magnetism. Frameworks don't
No,
cause
you're
things.
Exactly. It's an aberration, just like gravity. Perfect.
well then you can't go on QE for saying what he said, because that's exactly the position you're taking. The actual fact, it can't. But we're saying that's what they're saying.
When I asked him in chat what ether was and to show it to me, he immediately went to photons and light and a double slit. Okay?
Yeah. In the debate, a lot of the debate last night was based on, and I tried to stay out of it as much as possible, because light is definitely my weakest subject, but I would consider light everyone's weakest subject because it's such a mystery, right? But in the debate, he kept on referring back to the molecular model, atomic model, whatever. Protons, electrons, neutrons, and I gave him my rendition of it. I always viewed it as a way of describing the micro level or whatever, that's what it was doing. And he was making the point, well, you can't prove these things exist, and he was making the point that we can't see these things, so we have to make up a story about these things. And I said, fair enough, but I said the point about them is that they're referring to something in our 3D world. Even though I might try and describe something with protons, electrons, and neutrons, I'm trying to describe it in our 3D world. Whereas ether is a description of something that's outside of our 3D world. At least the atomic model, or whatever, we're still trying to describe our 3D world. Whereas ether, it doesn't exist, and even he says no, it's outside of it. Sorry. But even he said, no, it's outside of our 3D world. Like, he agrees it's not something that's in our 3D world. Basically, I may as well lay it out, because, I don't want to misrepresent him, because last night I spent a good while getting what I thought he was trying to claim out of him, right? So what he's claiming is that light is always present, but we invoke it through the manipulation of magnetic and electric devices and whatever else. That's what he said. That was basic. We invoke the light. We invoke it to.
Can I ask if
then show me
if it's there to interact? Isn't it here in the 3D world?
But see, that was the thing. You see, what he's talking about is something that's behind the veil that we can't go to. And I said to him, look, I understand what you're saying, but I said, I can't make that claim to somebody that this thing here is the cause of this thing in their reality, because I can't show them this thing here. I said, at least with the molecular model, I can describe something that's meant to be in our 3D world, but it's at the very small level. But I said, at least it's something at the very small level within our 3D reality, whereas the ether claim is outside of that. So I said, that's the problem. I said, you're trying to, I said, and he actually, in fairness, he did say that people shouldn't be going around saying, and shouldn't have been going around saying that ether is definitely a disproven thing that causes this definitely and causes that definitely. He said they shouldn't have been doing that, right? He agreed to that. And but my main point with him was that, like I said to him, why focus on this ether? Why not just try and find out the cause of magnetism and electricity? If I want to find out the cause of magnetism and electricity, what's the point in me starting with the pre-assumption of ether? Regardless of if Tesla or anyone else started or had that pre-assumption, why start there? Why not start from a blank page?
Can I address something that Neil asked earlier? Neil was saying about a discussion taking place about what ether would be, and the discussion then immediately moved towards light and how it behaves. Right, Neil?
That's correct. Immediately.
Okay. Do you know why?
Because they can't prove their ether, and they claim that quantum mechanics is the same thing, basically. I think that's what I get.
Well, why do they require a medium for light to traverse? Well, because the way that light is described when diffracting and then qualified mathematically as a probability distribution, that gives them their wave. Therefore, when describing, in certain circumstances, an experiment that uses slit diffraction, because that's a natural phenomena you can study, they take that to mean that that effect described with maths as a wave function is somehow a reasonable reason to challenge the experiments that are using the phenomena they misinterpret. So they've got a misinterpretation of light diffraction when described mathematically as a wave. So can you see the connection between perhaps single slit diffraction, but more likely linked to double slit diffraction, so that they can attack the experiment if there is even one being described when they just describe diffraction, because that's where they get their wave. Understand? I'll make it a bit more concise if need be. I'm talking to you.
No,
Neil.
I understand when you explain it. I understand. I do.
Well,
I just can't explain
sorry.
it the way you do, but I got it.
Sorry, Neil, for cutting in on you.
They get their wave
That's
from the
rude.
slit. That's why they start attacking it.
When I was talking to, when that subject came up last night with Austin, I was pointing out that the whole original claim that ether was a medium that light as a wave needed to propagate through, I said comes from a misconception about the fact that the wave part is only a probability distribution. It's a mathematical function. I said. He said, yeah, but he says it still shows up as a wave on the plate, he said. And he said that in the ocean, a wave is a movement. He
Stop a
said, within
second.
the
So
ocean,
hold on. He did that trick when he was here, Brian. So he says the wave still shows up on the plate, and then immediately starts talking about the waves of the ocean. Well, when he was up against me and up against Flatsoid, he asked us, he's obviously got wise to asking the question that shows his defeat, where the wave is when you have a single impact on the plate. So him just saying, well, the wave is still present on the plate. Okay. Well, when there's one impact, where's the wave? There isn't one. That's the undoing of his argument. But he said there's still a wave viewable on the plate. No. He's still saying that. What a wanker.
Not what he said at all.
Yeah,
You guys are straw manning the shit out of it.
Hold on. Guys in G+.
I was the one
Guys in
debating
G+.
him. I remember what he said.
Hello? Somebody wants to clarify what Witsit said. That's fine. Whoever was that Dicelo? Go ahead.
Yeah, he described it as a single point hitting that plate. And he said it's not even hitting the plate. It's instant. It's already there. So yeah. He
Okay.
never talks
Thank you
about
for
a wave.
Thank you for the.
Yeah, but
thank you. Hold on, Brian. Hold on,
Brian.
Brian. Thank you for the clarity, Dicelo. Am I correct in saying that there's still an assertion of a wave, though?
No, light is not a wave. We don't claim light to be a wave.
You guys describe it as
it's not.
Hold on, guys in G+.
Yeah.
You guys describe it as a perturbation.
Yes.
That's a wave.
Well, not in that sense. No, a wave's not a thing. It's just what something's doing.
Okay, fine. No worries. Now stop. Guys in G+, third time I had to tell you. Just something the light is doing. Okie dokie. So according to you and Witsit, the light is doing a wave. Okay. With the single impact, the dot on a photographic plate. What wave? Go.
No, that dot doesn't represent a wave. It represents a single point.
So no wave then. What's perturbating then with the single impact?
It's the electromagnetic inducing with the dielectric field. That's what's happening.
Sorry, can you describe that to me mathematically?
Yeah. Mathematically?
Yeah,
Not
with
necessarily.
the data provided, that would be a single impact of light on a photographic plate. Can you give me the mathematical description of that induction you just described with a rate with the single impact?
No, math's not my forte.
But where'd you get the wave then? We're saying not just because it's not your forte, there isn't one to derive.
Well, you have an oscillation pattern. I guess that's what's being equivocated
Pattern?
as a wave.
Sorry. Okay. Now there's a single dot on the photographic plate that's got an oscillation pattern. It's a single dot. No pattern. It seems you're just inserting this notion of some mathematically described as a wave pattern that we don't have with one dot. Fourth time.
Yeah, that one dot is what you guys conflate as being a photon. But
Sorry, who gives a shit what it's called? Where's the pattern? You just said there was a pattern. What pattern?
yeah, it protobates and oscillates. And as it does,
Sorry. What? Sorry, I've already covered this. I've already covered this. You just saying it oscillates. Yeah, I got that the first time. My response, which you're just now chanting the same thing through, was what is oscillating when you've got this one dot? I don't see a pattern, which was your second response to that. There is no pattern. Then you said it wasn't your forte. Now you're going back rinse and repeat style to the same original claim. No pattern. No, it isn't showing any induction rates. It's just one dot. There's nothing to describe it as a wave.
Yeah, but you're only looking at the end.
Sorry, yeah, but let's move on. You need it to be a perturbation, don't you?
I don't need it to be anything.
Well, you just told us 3.5 minutes ago that it was confirmed by you as a perturbation. That'd be a bloody wave. And now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of you being incapable, and everybody being incapable, of describing a single impact, regardless of what you label it, irrelevant, with any pattern. That pattern that is yet to be built up when you've only got one dot would later be used to describe a wave when you've got multiple dots, because the multiple dots can give you a probability distribution that you'll later describe with wavelength. That's why you think it's a wave until we point out there isn't one to describe. Then you tell us about it perturbating, or about rates of induction, or patterns that we haven't got with one impact. So, Whitsitt went on to describe the waves of the sea after talking about this single impact. So he went on to a little bait and switch false equivalence. One dot doesn't look like waves in the ocean. You could describe waves of the ocean mathematically as well, in terms of their probability distribution if you chose to do so. There's enough information with multiple waves. There isn't multiple dots on the photographic plate to describe any of these patterns. Therefore, there's no way, shape, or form that this dot takes as a wave. It isn't one.
I think you should listen to it, Nathan, to my debate with him last night, because like what he said was that like basically what he's saying was the mathematical function is the description of the wave, as in the movement within the medium that what they call ether. I know. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sorry. No. I don't know what you mean. I need to clarify what you mean when you describe what he means. The movement? No, that can't be right, Brian. He spent quite a long period nagging and negging me about having some journey that I didn't claim. Now he's telling you about the movement. That would be a journey, would it not?
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be correct because that completely contradicts himself, does it not?
Well, the best thing I can say is what I said at the end, right? I said, whatever you're trying to explain, you need to explain it differently, because I understand what he's trying to explain, but the way he's going about it, he keeps on adding in something that doesn't need it to be added in there, because he keeps on making pre-assumptions about stuff. So, I mean, like a movement within that medium would be a movement. Like he's using the wrong word, because what he
No. You guys are extremely wrong right
now. Hold on, there's a new contender. Sorry, I've got to stop you, Brian.
You're strawmanning the whole argument here. There's no the only movement is the oscillation.
Brian, please. Brian, just let him interject. Go ahead, Khan. Or Chaos, rather.
Yeah. the only movement is the oscillation of the magnetic and the electric field to create the light. It likes instantaneous action at a distance. So it's saying that when the light travels or you have a wave function, your wave function is just the probability of where that next chunk of energy is going to hit, which is completely random. So there is saying that it's a
Not random. That's
wave.
wrong. Stop. That's wrong.
It's completely
That's wrong.
wrong. As
Stop.
in,
Just stop.
it's
Chaos.
just
Chaos. Please stop. It's not random. It produces a pattern. The probability distribution of that pattern is unique to each, let's call it what it is, wavelength.
yeah. What is it?
My bad, I was in the
Well,
middle of a
what's
sentence.
that
My
called?
bad,
What's
my
it called?
bad,
A wave
my bad,
function,
my
right?
bad. Maybe
Isn't
it's
that
time
wave
for you to chat.
function?
Maybe my mute button's unreasonable. Yeah, dickhead? Shut up. I'm talking, shut up. What you just described as being a random, no, there's no randomness when you're describing a diffraction pattern, because you can calculate the probability distribution and derive the wave function to then go on to describe it as a wavelength. However,
So you could tell. Yeah,
however, you just
the next piece of energy
why am
is
I
going
being
to
fundy
hit.
muted? See, when this happened with Witsit, and Witsit did this to me, Chaos, there was people in the comments that said that it was unreasonable that I should be able to take control of my show when this is the second occasion you've talked through this sentence. Totally unreasonable. Now, I'm going to get this sentence out whether you like it or not. Do it again. You just won't take part in the conversation as you're being unreasonable. You understand? That's rhetorical. Third attempt. You said that you will get the pattern that comes after the single impact. Oh, well, the wave function's just the pattern that will be produced afterwards. However, if you've only got one impact, unless you've got a crystal ball and think you can predict the future, you don't have a pattern to get wavelength from. So no pattern, no wave. You appealing to the rest of it that'll come later? What if they shut the machine off and you're left with a single dot? Where do you get the wave from the single dot? Answer: you and everybody else cannot get a pattern from one dot. No pattern, no wave.
Okay. So what? You're just describing a wave as a pattern then.
That's how wavelength is described.
Okay, and what does that have to do
And
with
that's
what?
why you say it needs ether, because it's a wave.
No, that you are completely wrong. What you're describing as a wave
Oh,
function
am I
is the
really?
probability. Of,
Really?
Yeah, let me explain.
Oh,
What
okay.
you're
No
explaining
worries.
is a
Stop.
wave
No,
function
you
is-
don't need to explain. You need to give me a citation for ether. Citation for what ether is, please. Don't need you babbling on. We've got 100 different people telling us what ether is. Cite it.
What you're describing as a wave function is just a probability of where energy is going to hit. You're thinking that when we
don't detail what the probability distribution is. I know what a wavelength is. You're telling me I'm wrong about ether being the reification of the wave to traverse. Citation, please,
Right.
for what ether is.
When did I ever say that?
You just told me it didn't and wasn't in reference to a wave, which ether absolutely is. It's the medium required for your misapprehensions of wavelength being light as a wave traversing a medium, something you've just denied, and I'm now demanding citation because you are denying the premise of what ether is when light is described as a wave traversing it.
No, you're strawmanning me.
Strawmanning you. According to Wikipedia, ether, classical element. According to ancient and medieval science, ether, alternative spellings include, and then it gives various spellings, also known as fifth element, is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. The concept of ether was used in several theories to explain several natural phenomena, such as travelling of light and gravity.
And when did I claim any of those things?
That's the definition of ether.
Yeah, those things. I said you were strawmanning me.
So I'm not strawmanning you. I've said that's what ether is. It needs a wave. It's the medium that wave you misapprehend is traversing. You told me I was strawmanning you. Now I've gone and got a citation because you won't.
Wait, so to clear this up, that's not what you're
you're
claiming?
an idiot.
Sorry, that's an ad
Dude.
hominem attack, a fallacy. So I have been told that when I say light isn't a wave, here's how it isn't a wave, and you finally concede, well, we're not saying it's a wave. And I say, yeah, you are. Go and get me a citation that gives it in an alternative description. You haven't done that. I have. But you have not, and yet you're going to rumpus the living crap out of me like Witsit did. Yeah, Fundy mute me, maybe moan about the format as you Fundy mute the living crap out of me and don't let me make my concise point, which is that it's not a straw man. Your last accusation has been overcome. I've refuted that by citing it, what ether is, what we overcome. You're denying that, so get us a citation that says otherwise. Or bugger off. Don't call me an idiot. That's an ad hominem fallacy.
Just to clear this up, bro. So what Nathan just read out, that's not what you claim that ether is. Your claim is it's something else.
Yeah, and how many times did I say that?
So guess a citation then.
All right, before
well, no, I don't believe that you deserve it because you just strawman the shit out of my position.
Let's give a different definition. I strawmanned his position because I said that light, according to the globe claim and ether claim, is traversing a medium based on a misapprehension of light being a wave when it isn't. From Wiki, luminiferous ether. Luminous ether was postulated medium for the propagation of light. It was invoked to explain the ability of apparently wave-based light to propagate through empty space. I am absolutely, unequivocally not strawmanning your position when I debunk the misapprehension of ether being a medium for light as a wave, which it's not.
So let's talk about the origins, shall we? So he said you can't get a wave, or sorry, you can't get a pattern from a wave. Right? So it's actually the opposite. What they did is they saw the pattern, right, which is essentially bands separated by an absent spot. And they said, what type of behavior could cause this pattern? Now, if you watch the two videos that I posted at Nathan in this server yesterday or so, you'll see the explanation of the first double slit experiment using sunlight and an explanation of why they postulated it's a wave. It's because if you go to a lake and you put two balls in the lake and you start bouncing them, it creates a wave, but they cancel each other out at their intersection points based on the troughs and the amplitude. Okay, that is where the idea that light is a wave came from. It's just an explanation. Which, by the way, doesn't work with the nowadays when they say light doesn't travel, and then they use water or a rope as an explanation for it. Because the wave in a rope and the wave in water does travel from point A to point B, so you can't use that as a fair analogy. The only rational objects we know that can transfer action, okay, are rods and ropes. A rope being pulled and a rod being pushed or turned, rotated. There's no wave that has instantaneous action, period.
Correct. The whole wave thing is just a desperate categorization attempt, right? To just make it fit some kind of pattern so you can latch onto it. But it was never a wave. It never really was. It's instantaneous, and it's not like any of the other things that, well, we deal with in physics. It's not like electricity. It's not like matter. It's just very different. Light is very different. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble coping with that. So they want to just like classify it somehow desperately.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Well, can I? Oh, Chocolate. I'll go after Chocolate.
I just
And then Eli.
I want this guy because you read out a citation from I guess Wiki whatever about ether, and he says that's a straw man. So I want him to make his claim of what ether is, or if he can cite it, if that's possible that he could do that. Because if the one that you read out is wrong, well then where's his? And that's okay if he doesn't have one, but like at least give us a stance of where you're coming from with this. Because if it's not the mainstream one, well, you see where the problem is, right? Because we have a bunch of different things being thrown at us at the same time, all being claimed to be the same thing. See where that's a problem? So I don't know what the guy's name was, but if he could either cite what he thinks ether is,
Okay,
or
well, we got. If Chaos wants to give
You
a
know what I mean?
response, I'd have thought he'd been off mute, but we've got Brian and Eli now in the queue. But if he does want to give a response, feel free, Chaos.
and I'm just trying to ask honestly, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to come at you, but you know.
Right, because the straw man him would mean that it's not his position that's being posited. So please posit your position is all that Chocolate's asking. The thing that people are saying we're not allowing on the show. Can you go ahead with the open room to speak and posit what you're saying so that no one strawmans you?
Clearly not.
He's looking it up.
Go ahead,
Can
Brian.
Discord hear us? Can
Yeah,
Discord
you can hear
hear
us.
us?
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna lay out what Wixit was saying, right, to me in a whole concerning the point on the plate, on the photographic plate, the point on that photographic plate, as we describe it, a point of light or whatever. What he was trying to convey, and this is, they're all going wrong because even I brought that up that they have all these different versions of ether, right? Because Wixit doesn't agree with the ether that would have been postulated by let's say in Einstein's time and stuff like that, right? What he's trying to say is that what that point that's on the plate was already there, but it was maybe electromagnetically excited to show up. So it's not something that went from A to B. It was already at B, and it was excited by something at A to show up at B. But it was already there. It just had to be. I'm not paraphrasing his words now, but I'm trying to explain it as best I can that it was illuminated at B due to electromagnetic excitement or whatever, or invoking.
How?
Well,
the middle portion is missing. Look.
Yeah. What?
You have an origin of the thing that's creating the thing on the plate. So the laser is over there. The dot ends up over here. But if the dot is already over there and something is exciting it, then what's that thing doing? Is that not traveling?
Well, he states that that a magnetic and electric field that's being disturbed, basically, and that is showing up the point on the plate, the dot on the plate.
Disturbed how? Like, I mean, if it's already there, what's being? How?
I'm only relaying what was said. And it's not. I'm not even paraphrasing him because the way he explained it was actually not really too brilliant anyway. But that's why I was asking.
The way
him.
you
That's why I was
disturb
there
water,
last night.
it's already there.
Say again, no
Hang on,
tanks.
sorry,
One
one
more
second.
time.
The way I heard it from him was the way you disturb water, that's already there. The water's already there. It's similar to that.
But the energy is obviously going through the water. Like it's so that's not what they're saying though. They're saying something is already there, and then it seems like but what's also being said is that you don't have something traveling from point A to point B. So then So then how would a medium, which is the medium is in question, disturbed how? In what sense? Because in the sense of a medium like water, you can have something at point A and then the energy will reach point B, but it would have to traverse to disturb the medium. It's not like the wave is just, I mean, like, you know how you drop a ball and then it creates this pulse, these waves? Well, it's not like you drop the ball and then the wave is there static. It's there then. Like it moves from point A to point B.
Yeah, it's
So,
got an
but-
induction rate. Yeah, induction rate.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so with your words, if you're describing no travel, then no, you can't use that example. So then what do you mean by it's already there? Already there means nothing is happening, not something's being disturbed.
Well, I recall him saying with Nathan that it's light and dark at the same time.
Yeah, I understand what he means by that, though. I understand what he means by that. What he means by that is that when you're in the dark, there is still light in the dark. There's no such thing as absolute dark. Right? There's no such thing as absolute dark. Right? There is no such thing as absolute dark. But
You haven't been in. Yeah.
Hang on.
Hold on, Brian.
Hang on. I'm not finished talking. Right? I have been in very, 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 very dark places, and my eyes do adjust, and I can see something. So, what's happening in a lot of this is the human eyes are being taken out of the context. You see things with your eyes. So your eyes have to be brought into the context.
There's something else that I was pointing out. It's light and dark at the same time. That's a contradiction.
He's saying that they're two different that one, it's the same medium that's being excited in different ways. That's the best way to kind of explain what he's saying.
Fine, then let's go slowly. What's exciting it to be dark, the darkest it could ever be, and then the shading version all the way to the brightest it could be. What's causing that?
Ether.
Ether's causing that.
Magnetism.
But light is a form of the ether, though.
Look, just
Right.
hold on.
Light and ether
Hold
are
on,
kind of the
Brian.
same thing as
You had
light.
your chance. There's a framework that you don't understand that's causing that. Okay? Simple.
You cite
That's
that
right.
framework. Hang on.
There you
hang
go.
on. Thank you, Neil. Can this guy who was asked by Nathan for a citation stop citing himself? Cite ether from several sources that match what he says. He's
Right.
been asked by Nathan. He
Right.
won't do it because you can make up as you go.
See, that's
I was
where I
actually
didn't want
gonna
to step on both Eli and Chocolate. They both said, nah, fair play. He's saying it's a straw man because I don't claim that. Seems reasonable on the surface. So when Chocolate's like, okay, let's hear what you've got to claim. Well, I let that slide, even though prior to that, I'd basically gone, no, I don't want to hear what you claim. I've had 101 different things that ether is claimed to be from individuals, and that's not where its origins lie. Now, if you want to be an individual and have your own anti-flat earth / globe heretic belief in what the sphere isn't, then that's your bag. But you'll get branded a heretic because it's not the claim. Now, if you don't know what the bloody ether claim is, then fine. You just say you don't know. But if you say, I've got my own version, you're but one man. I don't care, frankly.
Well,
but,
look,
and I
the
get
thing
why
that
you don't
we're
care.
answering.
Go ahead, Eli. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna say the same thing, I think. But I'm responding to the streets. You know what I mean? That's what I think. Because there's a dog whistle out there, and there's a little bit of okay, it's true. It's hard to be a normie and speak to you because there's a level of ignorance that a lot of us can't tolerate. Let's be real. But then there are people that we care about, that we like, that will tolerate nonsense from even less. That is being painted as not allowing people to get their position out here on this show. Well, while I don't agree with certain aspects of everyone's personality here. I am here and this is my home and I have to defend it on that front. I'm waiting for people to come here and eloquently and without any interruption present your point, because after you do, you can't say that the rebuttal is not you making your point. You've made your point, you've had a rebuttal, and you're not going to be allowed to repeat it 20 times. That's not the same as not being able to get your point across.
Actually, what happened was he told me taking apart the idea and notion and misapprehension of light being a wave for the traversing of a medium called ether, as per the rhetoric, was a straw man.
Yeah, and that's why I asked very nicely if what you read out was not his claim, could he restate the claim or provide citation for his claim? And I haven't heard him since.
He did neither. Correct.
And then we'll get told later, oh, you guys are funding me, and you don't let us get our point across. Well, we're asking for the point. Like, I'm asking. Is that a problem? I mean, and it's okay if you say, I don't really know, or I don't have a citation, or I can't state it. That's fine. And then we can move on. But because now we get the stony silence we get from the Globers when we ask them a hard question, it's crazy, man.
Chocolate.
Well, I get where the straw man thing, I think I get it. And if you guys are out there to take this opportunity to say, I'm glad that you clarified this. So when we say light is a wave and they're like, no, that's not what we're saying, I think it's because they would say ether is actually the medium that once some form of energy is introduced to, shows up, which is resultant of the medium that is being disturbed, that is the wave. But the ether itself is the wave, and the light is what we see as a result of the medium being disturbed, rather than light itself being a wave.
Yeah,
Why
but
are
you see
you
how it goes all over the place?
Hang
Because even yesterday at some point, he said, like, it basically is ether. Light is the ether. It's everywhere. And even in his own chat, even in his own chat, people that are on his side were like, ether is light? Not sure about that. So, you know, it's like, how many different factions are there of this?
As
at the end of the day.
As many as they want it to be. It's just like celestial navigation. Imagine if we didn't cite anything in celestial navigation. Imagine if we didn't cite the Nautical Almanac or a sextant manual. What if we just said all the things we've been saying now for a while without any books, citations, videos, or anything? That's who they are. All we're saying is show us where it's described officially, and then is your version match that? Now, the ballers and anti-flat earthers come here and they give a whole different meaning to right angle, elevation angle. And we know they're off because we have the official citations that tells you what it is. And they denied for the longest time that you're minus from 90. My goodness, it's in every book. It's embarrassing. Now, these ether people, is it that embarrassing if you start citing and then we match it to your own personal version of it? Is that why you're not citing it? Because you saw the embarrassment of the anti-flat earthers?
We're too hasty. It's only reasonable that I should be labelled an idiot and claim to have been using a straw man because I don't understand one man's view on his version of what the ether is. Obviously, that makes me an idiot, and it's completely unreasonable that I react and say, shut up, I don't want to hear your stupid individualistic nonsense about this crap that you claim when light needs to be traversing a medium because it's thought to be a wave as a misapprehension about how wavelengths are derived from diffraction patterns. I mean, I can concisely rip this guy's asshole through his throat. Meanwhile, he just calls me an idiot and tells me I'm using a straw man. Does he detail the straw man concisely? No.
Well, let me try to make
but for the fact that you can't logically put that together to understand when I say you're strawmanning me, that's just pathetic on your end.
So go on. Let's be taken through the straw man that you say I'm using.
Well, let me speak. This guy doesn't deserve to speak at the moment. So what he's just done there is a first cause fallacy. He assumed the antecedent, right, before the consequent. So you have to have foreknowledge of his position before he tells you in order to be accurately able to say in response a recognition that you're strawmanning him. Now,
Guys
to be
in G+,
fair,
can you be quiet?
this problem also occurs with the ether argument because they say things that are consequence and they use them as first causes for later things. So they have tautological explanations and first cause fallacies in a lot of the way they describe things. Now, to be fair, that's a language problem, but it's also a logic problem.
I'll go after Eli.
Hold on.
Go ahead, guys.
I just wanted to comment on what he just said.
Guys in G+, guys in G+, guys in G+, you moan like drains that we don't get opposition responding. He's trying to. Go ahead, Chaos.
Yeah. You strawmanning my position. The reason why I called that out is because
You haven't detailed it. You haven't detailed it.
You see?
I know. Let me
Guys in
explain
G+,
because he just said it was a
please
first
shut
clause
up.
fallacy.
Please detail the straw man I've used. Second time asking.
No, he just tried to say that it was a first clause fallacy. And the only reason why I called out that you were strawmanning me is because I didn't mention anything about ether. I was claiming light being a wave and what is oscillating and how you perceive wave as what something is doing or what something is. Sorry. That, and then you went on to, oh, well, ether says this, that, and the third, and that was a straw man.
Sorry, that's not what I said. I didn't say this, that, and the third. That's not you detailing my argument. That's you making up shite because you haven't actually listened to my argument. I did not say this, that, and the third. You didn't listen to what I said.
I did.
Okay, so when I got to the pattern bit,
I honestly don't
when I got to
care
the pattern bit,
because
okay,
I've
you listened.
Had, multiple
You listen. Okay,
conversations, and
thank you.
just don't give a shit.
Now I'm being rumpus. Totally reasonable opposition, of course. So we got to the pattern bit with a single impact, with you describing how a wave is something it does. This was definitely covered. So I said, when we have a single impact, how is light doing a wave?
Light is not a wave. It's what it does, and what it's doing is oscillating.
Okay,
Through
stop.
The
Stop.
universe.
Stop. Describe it with the single impact of light on the photographic plate. That's what we've got. That's the information we're dealing with. A dot. So, oscillating.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still not finished, my friend. You've just said it's oscillating. No, there's a dot. That's not something oscillating. That's incorrect.
Yeah, that's how that dot got there.
The dot's the information we're dealing with.
That's where you don't understand. When that chunk appeared, when your eyes visually took that in, what it did to become that was to oscillate through. It was excited through the medium, and the excitement.
No, that's your claim. That's you barking and chanting your bloody claim at us. We know what your bloody claim is. You're claiming light traverses a medium as a wave. That's something you just denied and claimed I was using a straw man when I summarised. Now you're literally invoking it, moving through a wave, moving through a medium as a wave. That's precisely what you've just detailed. Yes, I realise the misapprehension. It wasn't a straw man. That is absolutely what you claim.
You're completely wrong. You couldn't be any more wrong. I said it was oscillating. The medium was already there.
Oscillating like a wave? Yeah, that's what oscillation is! You stupid dingbat!
A vibration.
What medium are you talking
So
about?
when we've got one dot, what the bloody hell is oscillating beyond your fundamentalist religious assertion that you're trying to prove? Don't just bark your bloody claim at me like it's a proof of it.
Okay, is there a vacuum
Do you not know what begging the question fallacies? Nothing pisses me off more on this show than people who beg the question. Do you not know what a begging the question fallacy is?
Why are you asking me questions?
Let's just take this down a tone. Let's do it nice and calmly. Do you appreciate that when you're trying to prove that light needs a medium traverse, that's ether, and I ask you to describe how a single impact is described with a wave, and you say, because light traversed a medium with a rate, a vibration, an oscillation. Yeah, that's you using
I
your
didn't say
claim.
traverse.
I haven't finished.
I didn't say
I haven't
traverse.
finished chanting religious zealot fundy that Bob's produced from Globebusters. Shut up! I'm not
what I
done.
said.
You don't need to chant through me. I'm trying to patiently deal with a fundy zealot who can't stop talking through me. Maybe you dicks in the comments want to tell me how it's unreasonable for me to control my show when this dick cannot stop chanting through me. You are utilising a begging the question fallacy, something that is the cardinal sin on this show. Now, if you don't understand how you beg the question, I'll dumb it down a bit more for you. You've just begged the question. Do you understand? Clearly not.
No. I don't understand you.
It's using the premise that you're trying to prove as proof of the premise. Yeah, laugh it up, you stupid, retarded, ether-believing idiot. That's right, you stupid idiot. You're using a begging the question fallacy. When I ask you to describe how you've got a single impact described as a wave, you haven't, but you can damn sure beg the question.
I didn't say it was a wave.
You described the oscillation, you stupid moron. Whoever it is in G+ with their mic open, right? You're on my last nerve, whoever you are. Just mute while I tell this dingbat how he's begging the question. Yeah, you're using the premise you're trying to prove as proof of the premise. When you say, well, my justification for light traversing a medium called ether is that the impact has just been an oscillation through a medium. That is pretty much the definition of begging the question. Hello?
Yeah, it's what it's doing, not what it is.
Wow.
So in summary, for the audience's benefit, maybe the audience that want to tell me off for controlling my show when I deal with people like Witsit, people like Dicelo, and people like Chaos, who chant through the middle of me pointing out where they beg the question. That would be using fallacies, the same fallacies the globe use when they automatically assume that if the Earth's a globe, that would be if the light's traversing a medium, then the impact's a result of it traversing a medium, the oscillation through the medium. Yeah, that's the same lowest grade fallacy, cardinal sin on flat Earth debate that you can use. And it's moronic. Yeah, that's the standard that pisses me off when we're dealing with people like Witsit, Chaos, Dicelo, and any other chanting fundy that religious mutes me when they want to claim and state their claim and then use their claim as the defense of their claim, and the proof of their claim is their claim. You people are idiots. You are unequivocally, without doubt, an embarrassment to flat Earth. When you beg the question and justify your claim with your claim, you are an embarrassment. Equally as embarrassing as the anti-flat Earth globe heretics are to their claim of a globe. You're embarrassment to me, you're embarrassment to everyone in this community. You do not beg the question here, Chaos. Do you understand? Of course not. I expect a repetition of his claim as the response, because that's what we're dealing with. Chanting religious zealots. That's what you ether believers have become. Begging the question here. How dare you?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Chaos, you there? Yo, Chaos.
He probably doesn't want to tour an outdoor strip of him. We'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. But I just want to make a caveat before anyone accuses me of anything. The reason why I told him he didn't deserve to speak, because he was given a free opportunity to speak uninterrupted to give his position, and he neglected to do so and only came back to cause contention when there was contention available to cause. And that's why he didn't deserve to speak.
I agree.
Exactly. I was going to make a point that.
Oh, got a new one. You can after Brian Paul, but yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Can I go also after Paul?
What you want to jump? Oh, after Paul. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
It's unfair. It's totally unfair at this stage to claim that anyone is being strawmanned when there's no coherent singular condensed claim coming forward. If my version of ether is different from your version of ether, then with the two of us making a claim to somebody, our claims are different. We just have the same name on the claim, but we're claiming two different things because there's differences in our claim. So if you pick it up wrong, or you address me with the claim being made from him, how can I claim you're strawmanning me when you're getting more than one claim under the same guise, under the same umbrella? You know, it's ridiculous. You need to have one coherent claim that's unified. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, this is the problem with ether. Everybody's got their own version of it.
Coherent claim.
That's not what we're hearing, though. It's not what we're hearing. We're hearing all different claims. What I heard last night from Witsit was different from what I'm hearing here today up to a point. There's some small differences.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
I've been hearing this does and is two separate things, but and I've been trying to myself wrap my brain around this when I get into the ether guys discussion. You know, what is a wave? It's an oscillation of something, right? It's an oscillation of water. It's an oscillation of electricity. It's an oscillation of sound waves going through the air. But the water and the air are not the oscillation, right? So oscillation or sound is the movement or oscillation of the air. So that is what it's doing is what it is. So you can't get away from it. So they try to distinguish between what is and what it does. It's irrelevant. When they say light is always there, they're basically saying light is ether, okay? But the visible light is when it's oscillated or when it's perception. But the words become so convoluted, and this means that equal to this, then you're not saying anything, you know? So does and is can be a description. What something does can be what it is. That this doesn't make sense to me. As long as I've been listening to ether guys.
Brother.
Just one sec.
It makes perfect sense.
Hold on.
We've already
Hold on.
addressed
Just one
this.
sec. Whoever that was. Go ahead, Eli. He's just being a dick today.
Sorry about that. No, it just takes a while with this Obama phone to unmute things, and it's a delay.
I spoke too soon.
Anyway,
My bad. Go ahead.
Obama phone.
Yeah. Because obviously they're saying, because I think it's cognitive dissonance, because light is not the wave, but ether is the wave, and then once that's disturbed, we perceive the light. Okay, fine, fair enough, whatever. I just don't understand how. Okay, here's a laser or a light source at point A. Then that's turned on. You see a dot over at point B. Now the argument is that there's no photons traversing, or moving. That's why he said you strawman him specifically because of the word of travel. That being the case, if point A, the light turns on, and point B, we can see the effect, that being the dot on the plate, then if the medium is both at the pump and at the place that the dot is, then are you is the energy not going through the wave from point A to point B, or when you turn it on at point A, it knows exactly that point B is where the light should be versus where it is going?
But then we've got to establish what the what the wave being described is. Now, if you can't show it me, and you can only example it by saying, here's some water with a wave in it, it's like, yeah, I know what a water wave is. But you're saying there's an ether wave that's already there that's going to be excited. Okay? You can't show me that. So where have we got this notion of wave? Well, we know, I've gone through it 3 times. The wavelength of a light, everyone's familiar with it. Yeah, we can detail quite succinctly where that concept, that way of describing light when diffracted, has come from. Now, are we being bombarded with, no, that's not how we define this wave. Here's how it becomes a wave and what is the wave. And here's the citation for the wave that I'm actually describing. Or do we get, no, my interpretation of what the wave is follows. And you need to be paying attention to my one of 101 that you've now heard from an individual that's got a very different idea after you take apart the actual notion of where wavelength came from. Because obviously this wavelength, has that got nothing to do with the already there medium? So where does that fit in? Oh, it doesn't. So where are you getting the notion of wave from at all? Just your preconceived notions that it's already there, nothing to show. And if I ask you about it, it's going to be a concept. It's going to be a framework. It's not actually going to be something that could be visible because it's just a philosophy. But meanwhile, it's already there in physical existence and being excited at a rate of perturbation. All right, okay. Total double speak. Meanwhile, we can show where your wave did come from. And when we take that apart, well, we're not saying it's a wave. When we say we, I mean me as an individual, and you're a wanker for not appreciating that you're just strawmanning me, the individual, with my different definition of what ether's going to be. Because it's definitely not a wave. Oh, what is it? Oh, well, it's an oscillation. It just makes you want to fucking slap them. A fucking oscillation like a wave, you fucking wanker.
And then when you're given the opportunity to make the claim and state what you think this medium, this ether is, it's silent. Like,
well, here's the thing.
This is
thing,
crazy.
Though. Well, here's the thing, though. If you just stop, and if you want to talk about logic and thinking, obviously we see color, right? So that means there's different frequencies or whatever that the light is hitting your eye, so you can see color. Now, when I've heard them describe an oscillation, like there's an excitation of the ether, they use the idea of a string. Okay. Now they use the analogy of a string tied between the thing I'm looking at and my eye or whatever you're doing. That means only a small portion of that string is excited, which the ether must be some kind of string, a bunch of strings connecting everything to be able to excite that one frequency so I can see that one color. You know what I mean? If it's not a particle, it has to be something like that. And if it's a medium like water, that doesn't work, because when you see waves going through a water, it spreads out. So you would not be able to see anything because there's no individual distinction in color or features. You would not have that.
Further to that, Paul, so when they're saying that, they're saying because each individual color would be described on its spectrum for its wavelength, correct? Another misapprehension of light coming to you in a squiggly wave because you've got a certain wavelength of light in the colour being described. Well, having a string drawn out and twanging it and saying, well, it's a bit like a sound wave. It's exciting the medium. It's not air in the case of light, it's ether, but it's exciting it, and you can measure the rate and the frequency. It's like that frequency is the wavelength, and that hasn't come from twanging a guitar string.
Correct. So check this out. So we've recognized the problem with using actual water waves as an analogy for their claims that, like, for example, like it's instantaneous and all this stuff. Water waves and sound waves are not instantaneous. They're a mechanical wave that travels across distance, yes, through a medium, no doubt. Now, while the medium is at the other end, the wave itself arrives at a later time. It's not instantaneous. Whenever they try to describe instantaneous action, they must use a rational object, like we already described, and Paul said, and they themselves have said. They use a string, a rope, a pole, a direct physical connection between object A and object B, not a medium that potentializes. So if they want to correct this, they have to work on their language, because there's a lot of language problems with their ideas. a lot of tautologies, and a lot of first cause fallacies. So, for example, we easily recognize that they're redefining terms. But then they're using that term as a begging the question fallacy for the next term that they defined. Okay, that's not fair. That is just totally not fair. If you want to come up with new terms, right, to have new meanings, come up with new words. That's simple. And then explain what you mean by them. Don't use words that people already established. For example, light. If you want to say light's not an object, fair. Then you have to say light's a phenomenon, right? So then if you say the ether is perturbating and the perturbation is the phenomenon we call light, then yes, light is a perturbation. And if you say light is a wave, that would be a fair thing to say. To then say, no, light is the background, and you have a fallacy.
Because then light is
They have to be
light is
separate
the
things.
medium that. Sorry,
No, go on, Chocolate. I think he was just tagging on one last word or two. Go ahead.
no, because by that respect, then light becomes the medium that light needs to propagate. That's crazy.
Bingo.
That violates the law of identity. So
Yes,
you're off into the running on that
indeed.
one.
Perfect.
Right. So I did make a claim earlier that there is one overarching consensus, okay, for the ether proposition. And nobody asked me what it was. If
What's
you
the
guys would know what it
overarching
was, you should be
consensus when
curious.
it comes to ether propagation? Abstruse?
No. Not ether propagation. Ether itself as an idea.
Okay, when it comes to ether.
Okay, it's simple. It's simply the recognition that the material world is subordinate to the immaterial world. That's all it is.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say another huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the thanks button, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Be sure to check out the most recent Ballbusters over on the Quantum Eraser channel, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!